Hey guys, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to see an amazing what-if story. But before we start, it's just a humble request that if you are new here, please subscribe because it actually motivates me a lot to post more. Also, the stories on my channel are fully written by me, so if you have any suggestions for what-if stories, please let me know below the comment section. Now, without any further delay, let's start. What if Harry Potter inherited the AINZ Ooal abilities? The bulb in the cupboard hums. Heat presses the wood above his face. Blood pools in his mouth. He spits and it ropes over his chin and into the blanket that smells of bleach and damp. The air tastes like dust and iron. Ribs grind when he tries to breathe. He goes still and counts. 1, 2, 3. The counting steadies the noise in his head. Steps past the door. Slow. Heavy. A floorboard clicks. The lock slides. Silence again. He cannot curl tighter. There is no room. His left eye will not open. It throbs in time with his pulse. A glass shard scratches his cheek when he swallows. He feels it with the back of his tongue. The cupboard walls press in. He tries a prayer he never learned. Please stop. Please stop. Another step. The cupboard door does not open. The step recedes. A television murmurs in the sitting room. A laugh track rises and falls. The house creaks. The bulb hums on. He has survived worse. Not this bad. Not like this. The thought is a dry thing. He pulls it apart. A teacher with blue hair. A letter on the mat. A stone in a mirror frame. A touch on his scar that felt like a knife made of cold. He blinks and loses the list. Pain comes back in a wave. He bites down and the wave breaks. He wants to run. There is nowhere to run. He tries to imagine his bed at school and cannot keep the picture steady. He tries to imagine a friend and sees only red behind his eyelids. He thinks of telling the truth and hears his uncle laugh. He thinks of lying and hears the same laugh. He is a mouse under a boot. Something inside him opens. It is not a sound. It is the feeling when air changes before a storm. He knows storms. He knows the smell. This is not that. It is colder and older. It pushes through the ache in his chest and the wet burn in his eye. It pulls the pain apart like string and the pieces fall away. The bulb stops humming. He notices the silence the way a swimmer notices air at the surface. He gulps it without moving. The ache does not return. Neither does hunger or fear. He lifts his hand. The bones show under skin that has gone pale as candle wax. The fingers obey like tools. He watches them and does not feel them. Information appears in his mind with the clarity of words etched in stone. Tier magic. Racial traits. Immunities. Spell lists. A tree of choices ordered and exact. The names are strange. The logic is simple. Resource. Cost. Result. It arranges itself inside him without asking. It is not a voice. It is a system. He waits for panic. A switch clicks somewhere deep. The panic is cut off. Another switch, and the anger that should live under the panic dims to a flat line. The fear that kept him small and quick drains away. The world does not narrow. It sharpens. He turns his head. The glass shard in his cheek grates on bone. He registers the fact. He does not wince. He lifts 2 fingers. They are steady. He takes hold of the shard and draws it out. Blood slicks his knuckles and drips onto the blanket. He notes volume and color. He notes that the light does not hurt his eyes anymore. The bulb has not returned. He sees anyway. He speaks. The sound that comes out is calm and even. Feel. Warmth moves through torn skin. The hole in his cheek closes. The sticky trail on his jaw dries. He listens to his chest. The rattle has gone. He breathes in. The breath is clean. His left eye opens. The world is clear. The lock slides. The door jerks outward. Light floods the cupboard. A shadow fills the frame. Boy, the word would have made him flinch this morning. Now it is a word with pitch and force and no meaning. He has the shape of a man above him in his view. Thick neck. Red face. A shovel leaned against the wall behind his legs. The shovel is wrong here. He turns his head. A smear of blood is on the skirting board. He follows its arc. It leads to the cupboard. To him, the man draws breath to speak again. Saliva collects at the corner of his mouth. The shovel catches the hallway light. A fan hums in the kitchen. The television laughs. Car passes outside. He collects all of this and stacks it neatly. Then he stands. The man takes one step back. The shovel wobbles and clinks against the wall. "Do not step on the blanket," Harry says. His voice is level. He is aware that it is his voice. He is also aware that the instruction is to prevent a slip, which would make control harder in a narrow hall. The man blinks. He grips the shovel. A muscle jumps near his temple. "What did you say?" The boy steps out of the cupboard. His bare feet touch the hallway runner. Fibers press the skin. He looks up into the red face. The face is close. The breath smells of beer and onion. His vision does not blur. He does not sway. The shovel lifts. He calculates. The hall is narrow. The swing arc is limited. The shovel edge could break a collarbone or crack the skull if it lands. He prefers not to take the impact. He also prefers not to allow noise to continue long. There are neighbors. There is the statute. There are entities with authority who can arrive quickly when needed. He needs time to arrange a mask. He chooses a spell. Explosion. The sound is a contained crack, not a roar. Air slams outward and snaps back. The shovel vanishes in a flare of light that leaves a black afterimage. The man folds. For a second he is still standing, eyes wide. Then he is not standing. The hall wall has a new shape. Plaster dust floats and settles on the runner. The television cuts off. A picture frame spins and tinks to a stop. He waits 3 breaths. No second step from inside the sitting room. No scream. The kitchen fan keeps humming. Tap drips. He looks down. The man is a problem solved. The heat that could be shock does not rise. A switch tries to lift in his chest and the click cuts it off again. The system names this action. Mental check. He accepts the label and moves on. A shape fills the doorway of the sitting room. A hand clutches a pearl necklace. The beads grind under the fingers. The woman does not speak. The boy on the sofa makes a thin sound in his throat. The smell of hot plaster and cooked dust hangs in the air. "Stay in the room," Harry says. "You will not be harmed if you do not attempt to leave or call anyone. Sit. Do not move. Look at the floor if that helps." The woman nods and steps backward. Her heel bumps the sofa. She sits. The boy does not take his eyes from the hallway. His face is wet. His hands grip the cushion. The television remote lies on the carpet near his knee. The boy does not reach for it. Harry marks their positions and returns to the hall. He crouches and puts 2 fingers to the cheek of the body. The skin is cooling. He notes the smell. He notes the silence. This creates issues. Noise. Damage. Evidence. He can address all 3. He lifts his hand again. His fingers are still slick. He considers cleaning the blood from his skin and decides to wait until after he secures the perimeter. He needs a guard. Summon Death Knight. The air tightens. Cold pushes all smell away. The hall light dims though the bulb gives off the same glow. A figure stands within an arm span of the ceiling. Black plate. A blade as long as the hall runner. No breath. No sound from inside the helm. Presence like a locked door. The floor does not sag under the weight. The woman in the sitting room makes a small sound and swallows it. The boy whimpers and then clamps his teeth together. The Death Knight turns its helm a fraction toward them. It does not move again. "Guard," Harry says. "No one enters this hall who is not me." The helm tips once. The blade lowers a span, point to carpet. Stillness returns. He registers the lack of heartbeat. He registers how right that stillness feels inside him. The thought flickers with heat and the switch cuts it down to a line again. He steps over the body and walks to the bathroom. The mirror over the sink shows a face that is his. The skin has gone pale. The eyes are clear. The mark on his forehead is a thin line of white. Dried blood tracks his jaw. He turns the tap. Cold water runs. He washes his hands and face. He watches the water go pink then clear. He does not look away. He opens the cabinet. Cotton, plasters, a bottle of clear liquid that smells of mint and pain. He closes the cabinet. He does not need it. He lifts his hand to the place in his cheek where the shard had been. The skin is smooth. He leaves the bathroom and returns to the hall. The Death Knight has not moved. The body has not moved. Dust has settled on the runner and on the blade. He kneels and places his palm flat on the floor. He speaks without sound. Runes form under his skin and vanish. A pulse moves through the house like a faint ripple. Wards answer. He feels them like strings under his hand. He marks each one. He files them in order. The sitting room doorframe. The kitchen threshold. The back door. The phone line. The wires. The gas. The meter. He shapes a plan. He enters the sitting room. The woman sits stiff, hands tight in her lap. The boy stares at his knees. Harry stops 2 steps into the room. Distance set. Safe angle. Clear line to hall. There will be quiet in this house for a short time, he says. You will not call anyone. You will not leave. After that, certain people will arrive who will make sure you do not remember anything that would harm you. If you speak now, you will make this slower. If you stay silent, it will be quick. The woman nods. Her lips tremble. The boy sneaks a glance at the door and flinches when the helm of the Death Knight glints. The truth arrives in him like a page in a book turning over. The fragment that burned in his scar is gone. He touches his forehead again and feels only smooth skin. He catalogues the result. No whisper. No pull toward rage. No sickness when he thinks the name that once cut him. The space that used to ache is empty. The emptiness is clean. He returns to the hall and looks at the damage. Plaster dust. A crack in the wall. A pressure mark in the runner. The dark shape under it. He looks at the front door. The porch light spills over the mat. A moth bumps the glass and drops. An owl calls from somewhere beyond the hedge. He will need to manage the neighbors before dawn. He tests the link to power again. It answers at once. It is not like a wand. It is like a hand that was always there and now can grip stronger tools. He calls another spell. The light in the hallway blurs. The crack in the wall smooths. The dust draws back together and vanishes into a neat pile that lifts and settles into the dustpan leaning beside the broom. He takes a cloth from the kitchen and wipes the runner. The dark shape fades. He places the cloth in the bin. He washes his hands again. In the sitting room, the woman has not moved. The boy breathes through his mouth. Harry steps to the doorway and pauses. You will sleep now. Their eyes drop. Their shoulders loosen. Their heads tip. He watches 3 breaths until both are still. He tests their pulses. Steady. He turns to the Death Knight. If anyone touches the phone, break it. If anyone opens a door, block it. If anyone raises a wand, remove the wand and wait for me. The helm dips. The blade does not waver. He kneels by the body a final time. He does not touch it. He considers methods. Removal now will draw notice. Removal later with the right cover will not. He stands. The cupboard yawns open. He looks at the blanket and the thin mattress and the scuffed walls where his shoes have rubbed. He hears the echo of his own breath from an hour ago. He feels nothing that he can name. A switch rises. The system cuts it down. He takes the old rucksack from the back of the cupboard and tips it. A sock falls out. A pen without a cap rolls and stops against his foot. He picks up the pen and drops it into the bag. He adds a clean shirt from the laundry basket. He adds the school trunk key from behind a loose board. He closes the cupboard door. He steps past the Death Knight and down the hall toward the kitchen. Laminate clicks under his heels. The fan hums. He opens a drawer. The phone book sits where it always sits. He flips it to the number that matters and then stops. It will be simpler if the call comes from somewhere else. A note forms in his mind. Location. Timing. Cover story. He files it. He draws a glass from the cupboard and fills it from the tap. The water is cold. He drinks and feels nothing. He sets the glass down without noise. He goes back to the hall. He looks again at the front door. He reaches out and draws a simple circle on the wood with his fingertip. The circle sinks into the surface and vanishes. He listens. A thin web stretches outward into the street. It hums when touched. He smiles. The smile feels like the memory of a smile. It does not reach anywhere inside him. He stands very still and lets the house speak. The pipes tick. The fan hums. The night insects sing behind the glass. The death knight does not move. The woman and the boy breathe in the other room. He sets a count in his head and holds it. He speaks softly. You will obey me. The death knight bows, slow and precise. The metal does not clank. The blade remains angled to protect the living room door. The sight should be absurd. A figure from a nightmare in a suburban hall. It is not absurd. It is correct. He lifts his hand and studies it. The skin is pale as bone. The lines are clean. The cut on his cheek has closed without a scar. He taps his fingers together. There is no tremor. There is no heat in his chest. There is weight and purpose and the map of a world that has always been wrong because it ran on feeling rather than function. He walks to the mirror again and looks. The boy in the glass looks back. The eyes are steady. The scar is only a mark. He feels the sense that a choice has been made, but not by him. Or rather, by a version of him that no longer matters. The thought should hurt. It does not. He returns to the sitting room. He stands in the doorway and watches the two sleeping figures. He could wake them and speak longer words. He could try to explain mercy in a language that will not fit in this room. He does not. He leaves them to the quiet he has given them. He goes to the front door and opens it a crack. Night air comes in. It smells of cut grass and warm tarmac and the faint sweetness of a neighbor's flowers. He hears a fox bark far off. The web on the step trembles, then stills. No one is near. He closes the door. He leans his back against it for a moment because that is what bodies do when they are tired. He is not tired. He is arranging. School. Wands. Authority. A headmaster who asks questions with kind eyes. A set of laws that pretend all dangers are equal. A game with points and cheers. He lines them up. He puts them in a box. He marks the box as obsolete. He looks to the death knight. We are leaving soon, he says. I will call you back when I require you. Until then you will remain here and keep silence in this house. The helm dips. The figure fades by degrees. The air warms. The hall light returns to normal. The space where the blade had hung looks empty. He picks up his rucksack and walks to the kitchen. He writes a note in small neat letters and sets it on the table. The note says that a gas fault has been reported and that a council inspector will arrive in the morning. It includes an order to do nothing until then. It will be enough. He returns to the hall, steps over the place where the runner was dark, and opens the cupboard once more. He looks in at the blanket and the stain that has dried there. He does not step inside. He closes the door and turns the latch. He stands in the middle of the hall and breathes. The breath moves in a chest that does not ache. He lifts his hand and calls power with a word that tastes like iron and ash. The air shivers. Space folds the way a page bends. A black seam appears away from the wall. It widens just far enough. Gate. He does not step through yet. He looks back at the sitting room, at the two sleeping figures, at the neat table in the kitchen, at the cloth bin, at the dustpan, at the old life lined up and put away. He walks into the seam. The hall vanishes. Cold, clean dark accepts him. On the far side, a stone floor waits under a sky without stars. He steps out. The seam sews itself up without a trace. The place he has chosen is an empty ruin on a hill outside the town. Loose stones. Thistle in cracks. A view of sodium lamps and quiet streets. An owl crosses the sky with a soft beat of wings. He stands still and observes. The night air moves past his face. His skin records it. Nothing else stirs. He sets his rucksack down on a flat stone. He closes his eyes and opens something else inside. Lines of power light in the air around him, invisible to sight and louder than sound. They connect to others far away. He can feel a school that thinks it is a castle. He can feel a bank that thinks it is a fortress. He can feel a city full of rooms like his cupboard and rooms full of glass and gold and lies. He reaches for the school and stops. Not yet. First, he needs a mask that will pass until he decides no mask is required. He shapes a plan. He puts steps in order. He sets a line of actions that lead from this hill to a chair in an office with a phoenix on a perch. He sets another line that leads from that office to a graveyard where a man who feared death will learn what it means to be looked at by death and seen as nothing. His hands are steady at his sides. Insects sing in the grass. A car sweeps past on a distant road and fades. The world waits. He turns his head and speaks into the dark. Come. The death knight appears on the edge of the ruin. It lowers its blade and kneels. The gesture draws a line under everything he has been and everything he will be. The line is thin and exact. It does not wobble. Guard, he says again. Until dawn. The helm dips. He sits on the stone and watches the town. He does not think of sleep. He does not think of the sound a shovel makes when it falls. He does not think of hugs or hot tea or laughter in a dormitory. He thinks of structure. He thinks of names for spells and the amount of energy each one demands. He thinks of how to build a kingdom that cannot fail. A breeze slips over the hill. He does not shiver. He closes his eyes and listens to the grass. He opens them again when the sky shifts from black to a thin gray. The first bird sings. He stands and lifts his rucksack. He looks at the death knight. We are done here. The figure vanishes like breath on glass. He draws a circle on the air. The seam opens. He steps back toward the place where his new life will begin in full, and the old world will learn the difference between a boy who lived and a king who will not die. The seam closes behind him. The hill is empty. The town keeps sleeping. He does not look back. The street is black glass after rain. Lamps throw small pools on the pavement. Number 4 sits quiet behind its trimmed hedge. The hour is deep night. The curtains are shut. A cat watches from the edge of a garden and flattens itself when two figures appear beside the gate with no sound of steps. Albus Dumbledore arrives first. He does not touch the gate. He studies the house. His breath is slow and even in the cool air. Minerva McGonagall shifts her weight beside him and cranes to see past the hedge. No lights, Minerva says softly. There is light, Dumbledore answers. Not for ordinary eyes. He lifts his wand, then lowers it again without casting. He feels the cold in the air. He tastes metal on the back of his tongue. Something old has walked through this brick box and left a track that runs down the hall and up the stair. They go to the front door. He sets 2 knuckles to the wood. He does not knock. The door opens an inch. A thread of chill air slips over their shoes. Inside the hall, a figure stands between the sitting room and the kitchen. It fills the space from floor to near the ceiling. Its armor is black and without ornament. The sword point rests on the runner. No breath clouds the air inside the helm. Minerva inhales. The sound is small and sharp. Stand behind me, Dumbledore says. She moves to his left. He steps into the hall at a measured pace and closes the door with a quiet click. The smell of plaster dust and hot wires hangs under the fresh scent of rain. The light on the ceiling gives a steady glow. A thin pile of dust sits swept in a corner near a broom. The figure does not move. Its helm turns a fraction to regard them. Dumbledore feels pressure settle on his shoulders. Not heat, not weight, but the idea of weight. He sets his palm against the air and feels a working there that is not wandwork and not the old magic he knows. It is ordered. It is layered. It loops back on itself until it forms a wall. He answers in the old way first. He inclines his head. Good evening, he says. The helm gives no reply. Minerva whispers. Albus. He does not turn. He keeps his voice mild. If you wish to see us out, I will not stop you. The helm does not turn. It waits like a door that will only open when called by name. Dumbledore moves 1 step closer. He feels the temperature drop. The point of the sword tips 1 finger toward the floor and rises again to the same angle. Do not, Minerva says, and the whisper scrapes with strain. He stops within the length of an outstretched arm. The pressure does not increase. The ward behind the thing hums once like a plucked string and goes still. Dumbledore lowers his gaze. There is a faint shadow that marks where something heavy had pressed the runner. There is a crack in the plaster smoothed to a whisper of a line. There is a place where the fibers of the runner are damp but cleaned. He looks toward the sitting room. He sees Petunia Dursley asleep on the sofa, hands clasped, chin tucked. The boy sleeps beside her with his hands still locked on the cushion. Their breathing is slow and even. There is no visible harm on them. Dumbledore lifts his head again. He sets his voice to that calm line he uses for frightened first years and grieving parents and men who think they have no choice. We are here to speak with Harry Potter, he says. The helm does not move. We are his teachers, Minerva adds. Her voice steadies on the last word. Dumbledore studies the lines of force through the hall once more. He hears footsteps on stone outside the front door. They do not come from the pavement. They come from nowhere at all. The door opens before he can turn. Harry steps inside with a shoulder and then closes the door. He sets a rucksack down at his feet and looks at them. His skin looks pale under the hall light. His eyes are clear and steady. There is no tremor in his hands. Professor, he says to Dumbledore. Professor, he adds to Minerva. Minerva lets out the breath she has been holding. Harry, Dumbledore says, I am very glad to find you. There was a surge here unlike the usual twists of fortune that seem to follow you. Several, in fact. He glances past the boy to the thing in the hall. This is a family ward, Harry says. It will not harm you. It exists to keep this house quiet until the morning. A family ward, Minerva repeats without humor. Harry does not smile. The sitting room occupants will remain asleep, Harry says. They will not remember anything that would harm them. There will be a service call in the morning. Guess. The inspector will be an obliviator. There will be no trouble. Dumbledore nods once. He does not look away from the boy. He lets the silence rest for a moment. Are you well, Harry? He asks. I am no longer injured, Harry says. Your concern is noted. Minerva flinches at the shape of the sentence. Dumbledore does not flinch. He studies the flat calm on the boy's face and the way the eyes do not skip or avoid and the way the breath does not jump. May I look? Dumbledore asks. Harry does not blink. You may try. Dumbledore meets the green gaze and for a moment sets his will like a hand pressed to the surface of a lake. The surface does not ripple. There is no depth. There is clarity without texture. It is like trying to look into a mirror and finding that the mirror gives back a picture that is not yours and has no edges. He withdraws at once. Thank you, he says. Harry inclines his head. Minerva steps forward now, careful of the length of the blade. We will need you at school, she says. There are rules. Yes, Harry says. There are. He lifts his hand and the air tightens. The armor in the hall bows once and fades until there is only a colder patch of light against the wall and then that fades too. Petunia shifts on the sofa and settles again. The house sighs. Dumbledore does not hide his relief. He gestures toward the door. Walk with me, he says. Harry lifts the rucksack and follows him out onto the step. The air outside is softer. A car passes at the far end of the street and throws moving shadow across hedges and bins. The cat from the garden watches with eyes like coins and then slips away. Minerva stands with her back to the gate and keeps watch up and down the road, a dark line under the lamp. Dumbledore rests his hands on the top rail of the gate. I have believed for many years that this house was a poor refuge and also that it was the only refuge I could give you that would block a very old and very cruel magic, he says. I can no longer pretend that is true. Will you come away now? Yes, Harry says. Thank you, Dumbledore says. There is a small pause. The old man looks at the boy and then away and then back again. You are not afraid, he says. No, Harry says. You are not angry. No. Dumbledore breathes in. He lets his shoulders rise and fall. We will talk at the school, he says. There are things I must ask and there are things I suspect you will decline to answer. I will answer if your question has a purpose, Harry says. Dumbledore makes a small sound that might be a laugh or might be sorrow. Very well. Come. They do not take the night bus and they do not use a public line. Dumbledore reaches for the old paths and finds them blocked by a cold geometry that was not there yesterday. He looks at Harry. Harry draws a circle in the air with his fingertip. The circle sinks into the dark like ink into water and opens to black. Air from another place breathes on the step. After you, Dumbledore says. Harry steps through. Minerva follows after a look at Dumbledore that lasts only a heartbeat. Dumbledore steps last and closes the seam with a thought that used to close warded doors at the school. The seam closes anyway. He sets his feet on stone and smells wax and books and smoke from a low-banked fire. The headmaster office is warm. Fawkes lifts his head, turns one eye to regard the visitors, and settles again with a soft croak like an old hinge. The portraits do not snore. They do not move. The room feels as if it is waiting with its breath held. Please sit, Dumbledore says. Harry remains standing. Minerva takes the chair to the right. Dumbledore leans a hip on his desk and folds his hands. Harry, he says, I will put my questions plainly. I can taste the truth when it comes near, and I can tell when I have been told a lie. I will not use cleverness with you. A sound like approval passes through the boy's eyes. The Horcrux, Dumbledore says. Is it gone? Yes, Harry says. How? Dumbledore asks. Harry does not answer for a breath. When he does, the words are simple. A superior structure encountered it. It did not survive the contact. Dumbledore closes his eyes for a moment. When he opens them, there is water there, and he does not blink it away. Then one fear at least is ended, he says. Minerva shifts in her chair. She keeps her gaze on Harry. And the other fear, she says. Harry looks at her. He does not frown. I will not harm students, he says. I will not start fights. I will end them. I will remove threats. I will do this with care. If I must choose between your rules and the safety of the people in my charge, I will choose safety. Who is in your charge? Minerva asks. Harry answers without thinking. Everyone within reach. Dumbledore rubs a thumb against the edge of his desk. Would smooth under old skin. He nods once. There is a thing the school requires, he says. It is not law, but it is tradition, and, more than that, it is a way the school knows its children. I would have the Sorting Hat speak with you again. It will not bind you. It will tell us what has shifted and what has not. Then we will decide where you will sleep. Harry considers. He looks at the phoenix. The bird watches him with one bright eye, tilts its head. The room smells of smoke and feathers and wool. Very well, he says. Dumbledore goes to the shelf and lifts the patched hat. He carries it back and sets it on the desk. He rests his palm on the brim. Old friend, he says, there is a boy here who is not the boy you welcomed a year ago. The rip in the brim opens, and the voice that is not a voice draws a breath it does not need. I am aware, the hat says from cloth that does not move. The castle is aware. It came through yesterday like a winter river into a summer pool. Dumbledore inclines his head. He gestures to the chair before the desk. Harry sits. He lifts the hat and settles it on his head. The room narrows to cloth and the faint smell of dust and oil from old hair. A presence that is mostly curiosity and partly worry leans into his mind. Ah, the hat says. Hello again. Hello, Harry answers. What are you? The hat asks. Harry does not try to answer in a sentence. He lets the shape of the system show. The tiers. The way choices branch and cost. The way emotion rises and is pressed flat. The way the line of thought moves in steps, and each step leads to an end that is not a feeling but a decision. The hat recoils, then leans in again, bolder and smaller at once. This is not a curse, it says. It is a structure. It is so neat. It is so cold. Correct, Harry says. I can find your bravery, the hat says. It is still there. It is under glass now. I can find your loyalty. It is not the kind people sing about, and it would terrify them. I can find a kind of kindness. It is careful, and it does not look like kindness from the outside. But the thing that shines like a knife is not these. Name it, Harry says. Ambition, the hat says. Not for applause. Not for a seat in a council chamber. For an end state in which failure is impossible. You would build a world in which mistakes cannot happen because choices have been removed that lead to harm. Harry does not disagree. The hat shivers. Cloth does not shiver, but it does. You fit Slytherin like a key into a lock, it says at last. You would have fit yesterday, and you fit today with a click. There is another house where your patience would be useful, and another where your heart would have taught you. But you are a serpent now. Better the truth be written where you sleep. It does not shout to the hall. It speaks the word to the room. Slytherin. The word sits quiet in the air. Harry lifts the hat away and places it back on the desk. Dumbledore does not smile. Minerva closes her eyes for a heartbeat and opens them again. Very well, Dumbledore says. We will have a private word with your former head of house and your new one. Your trunk can be moved before dawn. Harry stands. He sets the chair back with care. He waits. Dumbledore nods. You may go to the guest room on the second floor for what remains of the night, Dumbledore says. A prefect will bring you breakfast at 7. We will speak again at 9. Thank you, Harry says. He leaves the office. He closes the door behind him without a click. His steps on stone are quiet. The gargoyle on the stair watches him with blank eyes. The corridor is empty. Torches burn a steady yellow along the wall. He feels the castle watching and does not feel watched. He goes up one flight, then another, and counts doors until he reaches the guest room. He enters. He studies the bed and the chair and the small washstand. He sets his rucksack on the chair and sits on the bed. He does not fall asleep. He listens to the old building breathe. A 7, a knock. He opens the door. A boy stands there with a tray and a stiff back. Pale hair. Slytherin crest on his prefect badge. He looks at Harry with a face that practiced a smirk until it forgot how to look without one. Breakfast, he says. Thank you, Harry says. The boy looks past him to the room. He does not ask questions. He leaves without chatter. Harry sets the tray on the washstand and eats. Toast, eggs, a small pot of jam, a cup of tea that has gone strong and bitter. He drinks it. He does not sweeten it. At 9, another knock. Professor McGonagall waits with a stack of folded robes. She hands them over. Her mouth is a line. We will speak after classes, she says. Yes, Harry answers. She turns away with her robes folded arms and does not look back. The day begins with potions. The classroom is cool and smells of stone and old smoke. Shelves hold jars and bottles in careful rows. The light from the narrow windows cuts strips on the benches. Harry takes a seat near the front. He places a quill and a bottle of ink to his right and a small notebook to his left. He does not take out a wand. Students drift in. Murmurs. A chair scrape. A soft laugh that dies when the door opens and Severus Snape steps from his storeroom. The hem of his robe whispers along the flagstones. He does not glance at the room as a whole. He looks at one or two faces and lets those eyes fall to the bench on their own. We will brew a simple restorative draft today, he says. If you brew it wrong, it will do nothing. If you are especially gifted, you may manage to poison a friend. There is a cough at the back of the room that is not a laugh. Snape glides past Harry's bench. His gaze sticks for a beat, then moves on. He speaks an instruction. He names a measure. He sets the room to work. Harry reads the list once. He stands and moves through the steps with unhurried hands. The knife rises and falls. The root parts into even slices. The heat under the cauldron answers a thought, then a thought again. Bubbles form, climb, break, then settle into a slow roll. Steam catches the light and breaks into thin threads. Snape drifts back to his bench. He stands without speaking and watches Harry stir. The spoon turns clockwise a count of 5, then stops. The scent of mint rises and blends with a sharp line like crushed nettle. Snape says nothing. He looks at the way Harry does not consult his list again. He looks at the way the heat stays perfectly even without a wand tap or a muttered aid. He looks at the boy's face and sees nothing there to push. He looks away, then back. He moves to the next bench and deducts points for a sloppy dice. When the brew turns clear green, Harry lifts the spoon, holds it over the surface and taps. The sound is clean. The draft is ready. Snape returns. He leans one hand on the bench, the other on the rim of the cauldron. He looks into it as if the shine on the surface could answer him. Acceptable, he says. Bottle 3 vials. Label them. Harry does. The glass clinks lightly when he sets them in the tray. Snape does not move. Look at me, Potter, he says softly. Harry lifts his eyes. Snape's gaze is a blade. Presses. It tries to slide under skin. It finds no entrance. It tries to look past sight. It meets a surface that is smoother than glass and harder than steel. Snape's left eyelid twitches. He withdraws and the breath he takes is quiet but deep. Do not attempt to read my mind again, Harry says. The class has gone still. The whisper of knives and the soft thump of pestles have stopped. Snape straightens. 10 points from Gryffindor, he says by habit, and then remembers. 10 points from Slytherin then. Take your seat, Potter. Harry returns to his chair. He writes 3 notes in his small book. He does not look at the eyes on his back. The class ends with the scrape of benches and the drum of feet. Snape marks vials and makes ticks on a parchment. He does not look up again. Corridor. Noise. Light. The school smells of parchment and stone dust and warm wool and young people who have run upstairs and then stopped and tried to look calm. Harry walks through the stream of bodies without touching anyone. Some faces turn toward him and turn away at once. Some faces hold and cannot decide how to arrange their mouths. Defense is next. Professor Flitwick has been asked to cover. He stands on a stack of books and beams up at the class. His eyes soften when he looks at Harry and then sharpen again with professional interest. We shall attempt a shield charm that is old and often done poorly, he says. It is not a bubble. It is a pain. Make it with patience. He demonstrates. His wand moves with a crisp little twist at the end. The charm shivers into place with a soft ring like a wineglass tapped with a spoon. Students try. The air fills with dull thuds. A few rings sound thin and then fail. Harry does not raise a wand. He sets the shape in his mind and moves a thought across it. A pane appears. It holds without bend. The light along its edge shines. Flitwick looks up sharply. He steps down off his books and walks to Harry. He stops a pace away and looks at the space where the shield stands. He reaches out and taps with his wand tip. Ring. Flitwick smiles without hiding the worry in it. May I? He asks. Harry inclines his head. Flitwick sets a stinging hex against the shield. Pop. Another. Pop. Then a heavier push. Crack. The pane does not yield. Flitwick lowers his wand with care. Excellent control, he says. Thank you for the demonstration, Mr. Potter. Harry lets the pane fade. Students stare and then pretend not to. A boy in the corner whispers and his friend elbows him hard. Lunch brings the murmur of the great hall. The ceiling shows a pale sky without sun. Candles hover and drip nothing. Plates appear and fill. Harry sits at the end of the Slytherin table with space on both sides. Conversations at the table dip when he sits and pick up in a new key. Draco Malfoy walks down the aisle with a small guard of boys who mistake Echo for power. He stops across from Harry with his hands in his pockets. So, he says, Slytherin. So, Harry says, my father will be curious, Malfoy says. Many people are curious, Harry says. His fork rests on his plate. He is not holding it and also it has not fallen. You will find we have standards, Malfoy says. Yes, Harry says. That is why I am here. Malfoy waits for a bite. None comes. He sniffs and sits 5 places down. His guard sits with him. They talk in low voices and glance sideways and try to make their shoulders look like a wall. Across the hall, Ron Weasley stands with a tray in his hands and does not move for 3 breaths. Hermione touches his sleeve. He does not look at her. He sets the tray down at the Gryffindor table so hard that a spoon jumps and rings. He sits. He stares at his plate. He does not eat. Hermione takes a small sip of pumpkin and sets her glass down. Then stands. She crosses the hall and stops at the end of the Slytherin bench. She does not ask permission. She sits. Conversations near them lean in and then try to lean away. We need to talk, she says. We are talking, Harry says. Not here. Where? He asks. She looks at the doors. She looks back at him. Her chin lifts. Library. After dinner. Yes, Harry says. She stands and leaves without another word. Ron watches her go and does not stand. His hands curl on the table. The skin over his knuckles turns white. Afternoon classes pull time along with the bell. Charms. Transfiguration. In each room instructors measure and set tasks. In each room Harry answers tasks with a neat line and no wasted motion. In each room eyes track him and then veer away. In Transfiguration, a needle on the desk spins 3 full turns when Harry looks at it and then stops dead, pointing at him. McGonagall sees the movement. Her mouth tightens. She says nothing in the room. Dinner is a hum that tries for normal. Food appears. Plates fill. Slytherins never leave gaps on their benches, and yet there is one on either side of Harry. He eats and does not hurry. At the Gryffindor table Ron does not look up from his plate. Hermione eats little and leaves early. The library is cool and smells of parchment and dust and the polish Madame Pants uses on the tables. Lamps throw warm circles that leave the aisles dim. Harry steps through the door and waits just inside. Madame Pants looks up. Her mouth opens. Then she shuts it and looks back down at the book she is mending. The seam does not deserve fear. He moves past her without a sound. Hermione waits in a side aisle between arithmancy and spell theory. Her hair is gathered back. Her hands hold a small notebook that is shut. She does not sit. He stops at the end of the shelf. There is enough space for both of them and another if needed. No one else is here. He notes the nearest exit and the fact that the lamp over their heads ticks with a soft pop when the oil bubbles. Talk, Harry says. She takes a breath. She holds it. She sets the little book on the shelf behind her. What happened, she says. Not the soft answer. Not the clever one. Not a riddle. What happened to you in that house? He looks at her. He waits to see if anger will rise. It does not. He speaks the shape that fits. I was killed in practice, he says. A better word is overwritten. The part that could be pulled apart by fear is gone. The part that makes quick bad choices when hurt is muted. What remains is the part that calculates and then acts. Hermione presses her palm to the shelf behind her. Wood does not give. She looks at his face for a long time. Her eyes shine but no tears fall. Did you choose it, she asks. No, Harry says. But I will not give it back even if I learn how. It is the only way to make sure no one like my uncle decides how long I live. Her throat works. She nods once. She picks up the little book and sets it on the opposite shelf. She steps closer by a small measure. You are not a Dark Lord, she says. You are something else. You are a system. Systems can be cruel. They can also be fair. They can be fixed if they are wrong. I want to understand how to fix you if you need it and how to help you build if you do not. He studies the small tremor at her wrist and the way she stands in the circle of light and does not step out. He feels the faint movement inside him that should become warmth. The switch clicks and it drops to a line. You may ask questions, he says. If the questions waste time, I will not answer them. If the questions help us prevent harm, I will. She nods. She takes a breath again. Were you the one who moved the wards at Privet Drive? She asks. Yes. Could anyone have stopped you? No. That is not boasting. That is a measure. Do you understand the prophecy now? She asks. His mouth tightens. It no longer applies, he says. The variables that made it possible are gone. She swallows. Is Voldemort still a threat? No, Harry says. He is a problem to be removed. He is not a threat. She lets out a breath that is almost a laugh and almost a sob. Then we have time, she says. Time to build rules that make sense. Rules must be efficient, Harry says. They must produce safety. They must also produce dignity, she says, and her voice does not waver on the word. That is not negotiable. We can measure safety. We must also measure dignity. He does not answer at once. He weighs the cost. He has not used that measure in any plan. He lets the word sit in the air. He nods once. We will write both, he says. She steps closer again, small pace by small pace. She looks at his hand. She does not look away. I am scared, she says, and then she smiles a little and the smile is tired and brave. I am also more curious than I have ever been. The lamp above them pops again. The aisle smells of warm oil. You should be both, he says. She reaches out and touches the back of his hand with 2 fingers. His skin is cool. She holds the touch. He looks at her fingers. He looks at her face. He does not move. Heat tries to begin inside his chest and clicks off. She steps back a fraction. Ron sees none of this. He is not in the library. He is under the old clock in the corridor outside the great hall with his hands shoved into his pockets and his mouth pressed tight. When footsteps approach, he looks up with hope and then sours when they are not the steps he knows. In the library, Hermione draws a breath to ask the next question and closes her mouth again. She looks toward the end of the aisle. Someone is in the doorway, she says softly. I know, Harry says. He had felt the change in the air when Madame Pants looked up. He had felt the way the sound in the room shifted when another set of saws crossed the floor and found a stop. He turns his head. Ron stands at the end of the aisle with his shoulders tight and his ears pink. His eyes look wild and stubborn. There you are, Ron says. His voice shakes and then he controls it. His jaw sets. He comes forward 3 steps and stops an arm length away from Harry. He does not look at Hermione. He speaks to Harry as if she were not there. "What did you do to them?" he says. "At home. What did you do?" Hermione opens her mouth. Harry lifts one hand just enough for her to see and not enough for Ron to take as a threat. She closes her mouth. "I prevented further injury," Harry says. "I set guards. I arranged for cleanup with the proper authority." "You sound like you are reading a list," Ron says. His hands shake. He balls them into fists to hide it. "That was your family," he says. His voice breaks on the last word. "They were not my family," Harry says. "They were a threat. Now they are not." Ron takes another step. His breath is loud in his nose. "You were my friend," he says. "Maybe you still are. I do not know. I want to know. And I cannot know if you talk like a book in a cold room." Hermione takes in a breath that sounds like a cut, quick and shallow. Harry looks at Ron. He sees the way the light in the library turns Ron's hair into fire and his eyes into blue stone. He sees the way Ron's chest shakes at the end of each breath and the way his left shoe taps twice on the floor and then stops. He waits to see if the switch will allow a rise in his chest. It does not. "My voice is cold because the part that shakes has been turned off," he says. "I do not know if it can be turned on again." Ron swallows. His throat bobs. "Can you try?" he says. "Not here," Harry says. "Not by command." "Then how?" Ron asks. Harry looks at Hermione. She looks back. She says nothing. The sound of pages turning at the far end of the library comes and goes. "Be near," Harry says. "I will not lie to you. I cannot promise that will fix anything. It may only let you witness the way it does not. That may hurt more." Ron's mouth twists. He looks at Hermione now. She meets his eyes and then looks away. He laughs once. A sound without joy. "So this is how it is," he says. "You two with your plans and your old man with his secrets and me with my fists and my jokes that do not fix anything." Hermione steps toward him. He moves back before she can touch his sleeve. "Do not pity me," he says softly. "I do not want it." "I was not going to pity you," she says, and her voice turns level and strong. "I was going to ask you to help me write rules that count people as people while he writes rules that keep people alive." Ron looks from one to the other. His eyes shine. He nods once and the nod is rough. "I can try," he says. Harry feels the line move in his chest. It does not lift. It does not break. It moves. He notes the movement as one might note a change in barometer before a storm. Footsteps sound in the main aisle. Madame Pants clears her throat. "The library closes in 10 minutes, she says to the air and to the idea of order. Her voice is thin and fierce. "We will leave," Hermione calls back. She looks at the boys. She lowers her voice. "After curfew. Astronomy Tower. We talk again without anyone's ears on us." Ron grimaces. "Fine." He turns and goes. His shoulders are straight. His steps do not falter. He does not look back. He leaves the library and the door sighs shut behind him. The old building exhales. Hermione gathers herself. She picks up her small notebook and holds it to her chest. "Thank you for not making that worse," she says without looking up. "I did not make it better," Harry says. She nods once. She steps out into the main aisle. He falls in beside her. They pass Madame Pants, who watches them with eyes like pins and says nothing. They step into the corridor. The castle air is warmer out here. Students go by in pairs. A few look at them and then away. Prefect calls the time. The bell sounds the hour. They separate at the stair. Hermione goes up toward Gryffindor. Harry turns toward the lower corridors that lead to the Slytherin common room. At the bend he stops. The air smells faintly of water and old stone. The torches hiss. A figure steps out of a shadowed niche and blocks the passage with a soft swirl of robes. Severus Snape does not speak at once. He watches Harry watch him. "You will not attempt to enter my mind again," Harry says without heat. Snape smiles with no humor. "You mistake curiosity for assault," he says. "You mistake my tolerance for weakness," Harry says. A small pause. "Where do you belong?" Snape asks. "In Slytherin," Harry answers. Snape considers. He steps aside and makes a small gesture. "Then go home," he says. Harry passes him. He does not look back. The corridor turns left. The wall opens at a whispered word. Cool green light washes the stones inside the common room. Voices drop as he enters. The room smells of damp and ink and fire. He notes exits, bodies, eyes, and where the weight sits in the room. He crosses to a chair by the far wall and sits. He does not take out a book. He does not lift his chin. He rests his hands on his knees and listens to the water move against the glass beyond the wall. Above him, the lake presses its palm to the window and holds. Behind him, the corridor waits with its long breath. Ahead of him, the hour hand moves toward the time they named. He will go. He will hear what his two oldest friends will ask next. He will answer if the questions have weight. He watches the light play in the green glass. He feels nothing, and also he hears the memory of a feeling try to rise. The switch clicks and leaves him with a quiet room, an ordered list, and a promise he can keep. He gets up when the clock in the far corner gives 2 soft chimes. He crosses the room. Eyes follow. No one speaks. The wall slides aside and he steps out into the corridor. He keeps to the shadows where the torchlight is thin and the stones are cool under his soles. He takes the stairs up toward the night air and the sight of stars. He does not look back. He does not hurry. Outside, the tower waits. The wind slides along the stone like a careful hand. The night ahead will end in a promise or in a line drawn that will not be moved. Either way, he will place the next piece. The tower stones hold the day's heat and give it back in a thin breath. Wind slides around the parapet with a steady hush. The school lies dark below, a scatter of lanterns along the path to the greenhouses, a dull glow from the clock face. Harry steps out of the stairwell and into the open night. Ron is already there, elbows on the waist-high wall, eyes on the trees. Hermione stands near the door with a look that is both brave and careful. "You came," Ron says without turning. "Yes," Harry says. Hermione gestures to the gap between them. He takes it. The wind moves her hair off her face and then lets it fall again. "We will ask and we will listen," she says. "No speeches." Ron snorts and swallows it. "Fine," he says. "I go first." He faces Harry now. In the moonlight, his freckles look like a map. He opens his mouth, shuts it, tries again. "I miss my friend," he says. "I do not know if you are still him. I do not know how to be near you if you talk like a book and look at me like I am a problem with a number under it. I want to try. I do not promise I will not say stupid things. I am angry and sad and confused. That is all I have." Harry watches his hands. They shake and then go still as Ron shoves them into his pockets. He names the feeling that should rise and waits for it. The switch inside clicks and the feeling flattens again. "You are not a problem," Harry says. "You are a variable I do not want to lose. I cannot turn this on by command. I can put you inside the part of my plan that protects important things. That I can do now." Ron huffs. "Important things," he repeats. "That will have to do, I guess." Hermione's voice comes soft and steady. "Then we set a rule," she says. "We tell each other the truth even when it hurts. We ask for time when we need it. We do not walk away in the middle." Ron nods. He looks at Harry. "Can you do that?" he asks. "Yes," Harry says. The bell in the distance gives one slow note. The sound hangs and thins. Hermione lifts her chin. "There is something else," she says. "If you are going to change the world, then we need words that will hold that change. I will help you write them. Rules that measure safety and dignity. We argued about this in the library. I am not letting it go." Harry thinks for a breath. The night smells of cold stone and damp grass. His voice stays level. "We will write them," he says. "We will revise them when they cause harm. Your job is to catch harms I do not see." "Good," she says. She steps closer by a little and looks up at him. For a second she searches his face for something that would glow if it were there. She finds calm and a line of purpose and nothing else. She does not look away. "One more thing," she says. "I want protection I do not have to think about. If you are set on this course, people will come for you through anyone you care about. I will not be a soft spot." Harry nods once. "Agreed." Ron shifts. "I want that too," he says, then grimaces. "But not a skeleton with a sword outside my bed." "No," Harry says. "Not that. There are other forms. Hermione's breath leaves her in a sigh she did not mean to let him hear. She rubs her arms as if she feels a chill, then drops her hands. How do we do this without turning school into a war camp? She asks. We start small and quiet, Harry says. We keep the line between classes and command. We give people normal where it is safe to do so. We hide the parts that would frighten them and reveal them only when fear will prevent harm. Ron squints. That sounds like a plan old man Dumbledore would make, he says. Harry meets his eyes. He did, Harry says. Many times. He used secrecy and hope. I will use clarity and control. Where he kept the worst truths off the table, I will put them down and name them, and then I will take away the choices that end lives. Ron wants to argue. Hermione cuts in before the heat rises. Tomorrow, she says. Debate tomorrow. Tonight we set the first step. Dumbledore will summon you. He always does. Let him think he leads. Answer what helps. Refuse what wastes time. The bell gives another note. Far below, a gate creaks and shuts. Ron scrubs his hands over his face. I am going to bed before I say something daft, he mutters. He touches Hermione's shoulder in a quick apology he does not voice. He looks at Harry. He sets his jaw. I will be near, he says. Then he goes long stride back straight. Silence returns with the wind. Hermione watches the stair mouth until the echo fades. She faces Harry again. I am going to do something foolish, she says. Stop me if you do not want it. She steps in and kisses his cheek. It is brief and warm and careful. He registers the contact, the pressure, the scent of her hair, the sound of her breath in her nose. The switch moves, but the heat does not take. Clicks off. He notes the absence, and the part of him that would mourn cannot lift. I am sorry, he says. Not for the action, for the result. I know, she says. She is steady when she answers. I am not asking you to be someone you are not. I am asking you to let me stand next to who you are. He inclines his head. Then stand. They leave the tower side by side. The night presses cool and thin. They part at the junction of stairs. He returns to Slytherin. He does not dream. Morning brings stone chill and the smell of toast. An owl knocks with its beak and drops a note onto his tray. The seal is the school crest. He breaks it and scans the lines. 9 in the headmaster office. He rises at 8:50 and reaches the door at 9 exactly. Dumbledore stands at the window with his back to the room. Fawkes watches with one bright eye. The portraits pretend to sleep. The air smells of lemon and smoke. Please sit, Dumbledore says without turning. Harry remains standing. Very well, Dumbledore says. He folds his hands. His blue eyes are old and kind and also tired. He studies Harry without legitimacy this time. He knows better. He begins with courtesy and moves at once to the heart. I have bound myself to a simple rule where you are concerned, he says. I will not speak around a thing when I can speak through it. I have 3 questions. If you answer them, we can spend what remains of the morning building a future instead of measuring a past. Ask, Harry says. First, Dumbledore says, his voice quiet. Will you harm students? No, Harry says. Unless a student attempts to end a life, and even then I will stop and not punish. I will remove the means and the moment. Dumbledore nods. Second, will you submit to a form of oversight that does not try to chain you, but does insist on counsel and review? Harry considers. The word oversight can mean trap. Here it can mean a council with no power over his core choices and real power over how those choices are carried out. Name the shape, he says. Dumbledore taps the wood with a forefinger. A small circle, he says. Head of House McGonagall, head of House Snape, Madame Pomfrey, Professor Flitwick, and 1 student chosen by the prefects each term. You present the need and the intended action before you act, when time allows. In a crisis you act and then report within a day. The circle can refuse a method, not the aim. If they refuse a method, you find another that meets our standards. Harry sees the strengths. He sees the risks. He sees Hermione's face in the library, bright and stubborn, insisting on dignity besides safety. I accept with one change, he says. Add Hermione Granger as a permanent member. Dumbledore's mouth turns. Not quite a smile. Almost relief. Done, he says. Third, Dumbledore says, and here his voice goes older. What do you intend for Tom Riddle? Remove him, Harry says. Cleanly. No drama. Dumbledore bows his head for a moment. Then allow me a last question that is less a question and more a plea, he says. Let me stand between you and the Ministry until you do. They will bluster and fear. They are not ready for the truths you carry in your eyes. I would like to slow their panic long enough for you to finish a task I failed. Harry thinks of the smear on the hall wall at Privet Drive. He thinks of the soft thud of his heart returning to a flat line as the system cut it down. You may try, he says. Do not expect gratitude from them. I never do, Dumbledore says. Now the rest. He moves behind his desk and sits. He gestures to the chair. Harry sits this time. They build rules for an hour. They argue placement of lines and thresholds. They set the first draft of a code that will fit inside the school and then grow beyond it. They write the phrase urgent necessity and define it with care. They write the phrase unavoidable harm and ban it unless every alternative has been tested. They set records and a vault for those records. They set the circle's right to demand revision. They set Harry's right to refuse a delay that would cost lives, with the price of explanation afterward. At the end of the hour, Dumbledore sets his quill down. There is a meeting with the board tomorrow, he says. I will fight for the school to remain a school. I ask that you not turn the next day into a demonstration. I do not need to demonstrate anything, Harry says, but I will not hide if someone forces a scene. Understood, Dumbledore says. Harry stands. He bows his head by a fraction. He leaves the office. The corridor outside smells of beeswax and old stone. Hermione waits beside a window with a slim folder in her arms. She falls into step with him. Well, she asks. He gives her the outline. She listens without interrupting. Her eyes brighten when he says her name is written into the circle. She nods when he describes the rule that allows fast action with a report afterward. You did not give him more than you had to, she says. No, he says. He did not ask for more than he needed. They reach the marble staircase. Students flow around them. Hermione tilts the folder toward him and shows a page for a heartbeat. He reads 3 lines. Vault 19, he says. She shuts the folder. Family records, she says. Old. Lost in a filing move. I think the goblins buried it because someone in your line made an agreement they do not want to honor without leverage. If you go with anger, you will get nothing. If you go with a threat, you will get an X. If you go with simple proof of power, they will sit. Show them a door and a price. They respect those. He looks down the stair at the great doors. The thought of the crack of green fire and a marble hall and cold goblin eyes does not lift his pulse. It sets the pieces into lines. We go now, he says. She blinks. During lunch, she says. Less crowded. Fewer eyes. He nods. They eat in quick bites. At the doors, she takes his sleeve. No door that bends space, she says under her breath. Not today. You promised the device ledger. New methods. We present a version of normal. Agreed, he says. They step into a fireplace that belongs to the school and speaks to only 3 destinations. The fire grabs with a whoosh and a spin. Soot smells sharp and old. The marble hall of the bank forms around them in a rush of cool and light. Sound changes here. It is smaller and harder. Coins clink. Quills scratch. Goblin voices slide over consonants like blades across stone. Clerks at high desks glance up and then down again. A guard at the far door shifts a spear and goes still. Harry does not make for a teller. He moves to the center of the hall and stops. He does not raise his voice. He does not conjure light. He uses presence and the weight of quiet. The nearest goblin looks up despite himself. Then another. Then a clerk in a dark coat with a set of thin chains across the chest steps down from a low stair and approaches. Name, the clerk says. Harry Potter, Harry says. I request a meeting with the account manager for the Potter line. This is not a request I place in a queue. It is an urgent audit based on a failure of notice that now has remedy. The clerk's eyes flick to Hermione. She holds his gaze without flinch. The clerk gestures. This way, he says. They are led along a corridor where the light falls in narrow bands. The office is all stone and iron and the clean line of an old desk. The goblin who sits there has scars that look like pale cords on the back of his hands. His eyes are dark and very awake. Griphook, he says by way of greeting. Sit. Harry sits. Hermione sits a half step behind his right shoulder, the place where an advisor sits who can speak without taking space she has not earned. She puts the folder on her knees and opens it a finger's width. You request an audit, Griphook says. On what ground? On the ground that you hold a file that should have been given to my guardian 10 years ago, Harry says. You did not because you are careful and also because the person who should have received it would have used it badly. I use it now. Griphook's mouth turns by a fraction. Do you know what is in Vault 19, he asks. Records, Harry says. Not gold. Not jewels. Not that it matters. Records set price and law. Griphook taps the desk with one nail. Tick tick. He watches Harry's eyes. What sigil do you bring that tells me you are not a boy who learned a name and came to play, he asks. Harry does not reach for a wand. He opens his hand over the blotter and calls power the way a smith calls a glow from a banked fire. The air tightens. The light thins. A small circle of night forms on the desk and inside it floats a line of symbols that are not from this world. They are neat and cold and exact. The goblin stills. The guard at the door inhales through his teeth. You will remove that, Griphook says at once, voice even now. It will make the vault doors nervous and I prefer to avoid that. Harry closes his hand. The symbols fold. The air warms. He watches the way Griphook's eyes move. The goblin is not cowed. He is interested and slightly offended. That is good. Respect grows finer in that soil. You have a sigil, Griphook says. You have a purpose. State it. We open the vault, Harry says. I read what my line wrote. If an agreement was made, we settle it. If a claim was laid, we collect it. If you withheld because you feared a war, you tell me the name of that war now and I measure it. Griphook leans back. You speak like someone who thinks he can count every cost, he says. I can count enough to act, Harry says. Another long look. Then a small nod. Very well, Griphook says. He stands. He gestures toward the door. Bring no fire and no light. Bring your hand and your patience. The rest is ours. They descend past iron gates that open with a clock sound. Past a chasm where the air smells of wet rock and old breath. Past rails where carts hang and wait without wheels and still do not fall. A door waits at the end, black and plain. There is no handle. There is a square of stone where a hand should go. Griphook nods at the square. Harry places his palm. The stone warms and cools and warms again. A pulse goes up his arm like a heartbeat he does not feel in his chest. The door parts without a seam. Inside, air sleeps. Shelves hold long boxes tied with cords. A table stands in the middle with a book that has not been opened in a century. Hermione stays at the threshold. She looks for wards and counts them without touching. She nods. Harry steps to the table and opens the book. Ink sits dry on pages that still smell faintly of gum and iron. Names run down the left. Dates down the right. 2/3 down the first page is a neat entry. Statement of bond with the House of Bones. Year written. Witness Mark. Below it, a narrow script that notes a breach and a penalty held in escrow until claimed by the true head of the Potter line. He reads to the end. He turns the page. The same narrow script notes a second bond with a goblin firm in a war that burned hot and then went to ash. The price for service was not gold. It was a set of rights to a vault that holds things other than coins. Proto-relic, the script says, cracked yet potent, useful to a line that will not die, dangerous to a line that is careless. Griphook's mouth does not move, but something in his eyes says he knows this page too well. You understand, the goblin says. Yes, Harry says. You held this because it was safer than giving it to a drunk or a coward. You did not send it to Dumbledore because you would have had to argue about ownership for a year. You kept it until a person came who could give you a clean answer and a clean signature. Griphook inclines his head. What is your answer, he asks. Harry turns the book so the light falls on the line under the witness mark. He takes the quill Griphook offers. He writes his name with small neat letters. He does not flourish. The ink drinks light and dries at once. We honor the old price, Harry says. We take the proto-relic into custody and store it where it will not crack again. In return, I give you 3 things. First, A clear promise that the Potter line will carry no coin out of this bank without paying the fee that honors your guild. Second, a set of papers that names 2 goblin auditors to the circle that watches me at school. They will see every act I take that touches coin or contract. Third, a guarantee that if I remove the Dark Lord, I will close his accounts in your halls with dignity and without spectacle. Griphook watches him as if he were a blade being measured for true. Silence lasts 5 breaths. Then he nods once. Bring the box, he tells the guard. A long case appears from a shelf. The cord is red with a faint black thread through it. Griphook sets it on the table and cuts the cord with a short knife that looks like a tooth pulled from a rock. He opens the lid. Inside lies a disc of dark metal with a hairline crack through one side. It hums the way a hive hums, low and patient. Hermione leans forward a fraction and holds her breath. Harry does not touch it. He lifts his hand above it by the height of a knuckle and calls the smallest part of his new power. The disc answers without surprise. The hum steadies. It will go to a vault I build, he says. Not one that already exists. You will have a key. So will Hermione Granger. No one else. Griphook bares his teeth in a look that is not a smile and not a threat. It might be both. We will write the paper now, he says. They do. Ink scratches. Seals press. Names fixed to lines that will hold in court. When it is done, Griphook closes the box and ties it with a new cord. He hands it to Harry without bowing. You are not what I expected, he says. I know, Harry says. They return to the hall. The marble shines. A witch in a green cloak argues with a teller and loses that argument without raising her voice. A child stares at the case in Harry's hands and stops when her mother squeezes her shoulder. Hermione touches the folder to her hip and gives it a small pat as if to settle it. Back at school, the clock shows an hour left in the day. They part at the foot of the stairs. Hermione keeps the folder and goes to the library to draft language for the circle. Harry carries the case to a room that was a storeroom yesterday and is a workshop today. He sets the box on a clear table. He draws a square around it with the tip of a finger. Lines rise like frost. They do not glow. They breathe. He calls a guardian. Not bone and blade. Not a knight. A spectral bound to a single ward and a single task. It forms at the corner of the square like cold breath in winter. Listen, he says. Your charge is Hermione Granger. You will not be seen. You will not be heard. You will stop any hand that tries to harm her by touch or spell. You will not strike to kill. You will not break the school. If she orders you to reveal yourself, you will obey only if I have given you that permission in the last day. If I fall, she becomes your master. The air tightens. The spectral understands. It leaves the square and the room feels warmer. He finds Hermione at a side table under the high windows. She looks up when the chair across from her moves. Done, he says. She closes the journal she is writing in and sets the quill aside. Do I get a name, she asks. You can call it Sentinel, he says. It will keep space around you. It will not frighten you unless you ask to see it. If you ever do ask, do it in a room with few things to break. Her mouth tilts, this time with real humor. Deal, she says. He sits. She turns the journal so he can read. The page holds a preamble in simple words and then 2 columns. One is safety. One is dignity. Under each are lines that begin with the phrase we will. His eyes move down. The lines are neat and human and they do not slip into righteousness. He marks 3 with the tip of a finger. These 3 will cost time, he says. They are worth it, she says. If you skip them, you will save an hour and lose a friend. His eyes lift to hers. He nods. He writes a note in the margin with a small arrow for later. No symbol that breaks the new ban. Just a word. After dinner, McGonagall finds them and sits without asking. Her face is stone and kind at once. You are in my house no longer, she says to Harry, and it hurts to say it. You will still respect me when I tell you that I will not let you turn this school into a barracks. I will fight you in front of the board if I must, and I will look you in the eyes while I do it. Harry meets her gaze. I do not want a barracks, he says. I want a place where the children who will inherit what I build learn the habit of living through the day without fear. She breathes in. She looks at Hermione. Hermione does not flinch. Then show me, McGonagall says. Tomorrow, in small ways that do not make the news. Show me. We will, Hermione says. The professor rises. She leaves without another word. They work until the lamps burn low. They place commas with care. They define the word student. They define the word harm. They set a verb for what adults must do when they make a mistake. They write admit and repair and teach. When the bell for curfew sounds, they close the journal. Hermione slides it into her satchel. She stands and adjusts the strap. Walk me, she says, not because I need it, because I want you to accept a simple human ritual. He stands. They walk the corridor in silence. The portraits snore. The stone cools underfoot. The castle breathes. At the junction she stops. She looks at him. She does not make a new request. She waits. Thank you for the sentinel, she says, and for the circle, and for not turning the bank into a threat. That was the moment I knew this can work. He notes the shape of relief on her face. He nods. She smiles once and goes. He returns to the Slytherin common room. The water beyond the glass moves slow. A few heads turn. Most pretend not to. He sits. He looks at his hands. Pale skin. Steady fingers. No tremor. A first year crosses the room in a hurry, trips over a rug, and drops a book. The book skids, flips, thumps. He hears the small crack in the spine. The boy flinches and looks terrified at nothing in particular. Harry lifts a hand and the book slides back across the carpet to the boy's shoe. The boy picks it up without a word and scurries away. Harry has not moved from his chair. He thinks of the cracked disc in the workshop and the way it hummed when he spoke to it. He thinks of the rule that will require him to report to a circle when time allows. He thinks of the boy who will sleep tonight with a ghost near his bed that he will never see, and he thinks of the girl who asked for that ghost and then wrote "We will not trade people for order" in a neat hand under a lamp. He stands when the clock gives its two soft notes. He does not go to the tower tonight. He goes to the workshop and sits with the box in its square. He listens to its hum and to his own breath. He watches the lines on the table breathe without light. He says nothing. Outside, rain begins in a light patter. It builds and becomes a steady drum on slate. Wind moves through the chimney and makes a low moan that might be a voice if he were the kind of boy who still heard voices in old stone. He closes his eyes and tries to lift the switch inside without forcing it. Nothing rises. He opens his eyes. On the far side of the table, the air pulls cold for a heartbeat. He turns his head. No one is there. Not a person. Not a ghost. Something else. A seam in the world that is very small and very far away, breathed in and let the breath out. He files the feeling. Not yet, he tells himself. Not yet. He stays until the rain thins. He returns to the dorm when the hour turns. He lies on his back and looks at the lines in the stone above his bed. He does not sleep at once, and when he does, the sleep is flat and free of dreams. Morning will bring classes, and then the circle will meet for the first time. After that, the boy who once called himself the Dark Lord will learn what it means when death looks at you and sees only a task. For now, there is quiet. For now, there is the hum of a cracked relic and the light touch of a sentinel that keeps space around a friend. For now, there is a world that has not yet noticed the exact moment it began to change. The stadium smells of wet earth and hot scale. Ropes creak. Flags slap. The stands are a wall of voices. Judges sit behind a low rail with quills ready. The dragons wait in iron rings that are too thin for comfort. Ash specks float in the air. Heat rolls in slow waves that make faces blur and sharpen again. Harry steps into the arena with his hands at his sides. No wand, no flourish. The weight of eyes settles and tries to press. It does not move him. The Hungarian horntail lifts its head and the plates along the neck rise one by one with a dry clack. It draws a long breath through the slit of its nose. Smoke leaks from the corners of its mouth. A gold egg shines behind it under a guard of chain and spike. The whistle shrills. The dragon roars. A blast of heat slams the ground. In the stands someone screams. Someone cheers. Someone sobs into a scarf. Harry does not run. He does not dance. He places a line through the air with 2 fingers. The line is not light. It is the idea of a door drawn to the side. He steps left and the space that held him is empty. The dragon snaps at where he was. Teeth clap together with a sound like thick wood splitting. His head whips back. The spines clatter. He sets the shape of a pane between the crowd and the fire. The dragon breath catches it and spreads. Heat loses teeth. In front of him the eye fills his view. Black slit in a yellow field. He lifts his hand and speaks a single word that is not from the school. The pupil floods wide. The beast blinks. For 1 second it is lost inside its own skull. He walks past the swing of the jaw. He does not look up when the wing sweeps. The wind pushes and fails. He reaches the egg, takes it in one hand, and turns toward the gate. The roar behind him shakes his coat. A claw slams the ground a length away. Dirt rains on his shoulders. He does not hurry. He leaves the arena at a measured pace. A boy carrying a bright oval under a sky that has gone pale with heat. Silence folds over the stands. It is not respect. It is the kind of quiet that comes when a room tries to decide if it has seen a trick or a truth. Then the sound returns in a rush. Quills scratch. Scores rise. Madame Pomfrey exhales for the first time in a minute and tries to hide it. Hermione stands with her hands tight on the rail and the color gone from her lips. When he looks up at her, she does not wave. She swallows and gives him one small nod, as if she is agreeing to a line that has no words written on it. Ron thumps both fists into the air and then looks around as if he is not sure he should have done that. Later, in the tent, Ludo Bagman tries for a clap on the shoulder. The clap does not land. "Brilliant show, my boy," Bagman says. "The crowd loves a puzzle. How did you manage that blink past the old lizard? Some little charm from Flitwick, is it?" Harry looks at him. "Observation and simple movement," Harry says. Bagman laughs and does not understand. He jangles away to crowd the next champion with jokes that are not funny. When the maze rises weeks later, tall hedges lean over the paths and suck sound from the air. Lanterns give a weak light. The cup sits in the center on a low plinth. Rules are read. Hoods are straightened. Hands flex on wand handles. The whistle. Feet drum into grass. Harry walks a path that changes its mind and tries to box him. He does not push. He does not force. He steps where the hedge wishes he would not, and the hedge moves aside because the pressure he applies is the kind that does not let it remember how to stand in the way. Creatures grunt and melt back into shadow. A boggart tries to rise and finds no fear to feed on. Turns into smoke and slips down into the turf. At the center, the cup waits. Cedric breathes hard at the opposite end of the circle. Sweat runs along his jaw. He lifts a hand. Harry lifts one in answer. "Take it together," Cedric says. His voice shakes with effort and hope. "Yes," Harry says. They grasp the handles. The world turns inside out. The hedge smell vanishes. Cold slaps his face. The night is dead still. A graveyard stands around them, stones leaning, grass long. A church without light sags beyond a low wall. Cedric looks at him in confusion. Then he looks down. The pattern of the ground is wrong here. The air tastes like old coins. Harry lifts a hand to stop him, but the motion is already in the world. A figure steps out of shadow with a hood low. A high thin voice gives a command. A curse snaps from the side. Cedric falls with his eyes open and his chest still. The sound he makes is a small grunt that ends too soon. Harry does not move. Pettigrew limps into the light with a bundle that smells of rot and medicine. Cauldron sits ready. Bone dust spills. A blade flashes. Blood hisses in the brew. The bundle speaks and begs and commands. Pettigrew shakes. He throws the thing into the cauldron and it hits with a wet slap. Steam rises gray and foul. The smell makes the throat want to close. It does not close. Harry watches. He counts the beats between elements as if this were class. He notes the work. He marks the lines of the circle. He does not interrupt. This is cleaner than chasing. The figure that climbs out of the cauldron is thin and white and wrong. It breathes and the sound is a hiss that tries to be a laugh. Takes a wand. It stands. It summons old servants and they come with the rustle of cloth and the clink of badges that should have been burned long ago. They circle. They keep distance. None meets his eyes for more than a second. The white figure begins to speak. It tells a story about death and return and destiny. It says Harry's name as if that grants ownership. The sound does not stick. Enough, Harry says. The figure turns. The slit eyes narrow. A smile opens that shows no warmth. The wand comes up. The word that once ended lives breaks the air and strikes Harry in the chest. Green light hits and runs like water off glass. There is no sting. There is no ache. There is the faintest sense of a key pressed to a door that will not take the turn. The breath of the Death Eaters catches. Two take a step back. Pettigrew makes a soft sound and tries to hide it in his sleeve. The white figure takes another step. The smile wavers. No, Harry says. He lifts his hand. He speaks the name of the skill that lives in the bones of the Overlord. The goal of all life is death. The graveyard seems to lean in. The night air tightens as if it has been wound like a spring. Time does not slow. It becomes visible and countable. The white figure opens his mouth. Words begin and do not become a plan. Harry looks at his face the way a surgeon looks at a map just before the cut. 12. The figure smiles again because smiling is an old habit and habits hold the hands when they have nothing else. 11. Dumbledore sits in his office with his palms flat on the desk and his eyes on the edge of a bowl that shows a cold stone yard and a boy standing with his back straight. He is very still. He does not call for help. He knows any help he gathers will arrive late and turn into noise. 10. A Death Eater fumbles at his mask. His fingertips are slick. He does not lift the mask. He cannot decide if sight is safer than blindness. 9. Hermione kneels by the school fountain and drinks from her hands and tells herself she will not be sick on the stone. She cannot stop thinking about the way he did not breathe harder when he walked past the dragon. She tells herself to stand. She stands. 8. Ron stands in a corridor with his ear against a cold door and hears nothing from within and tells himself that means everything is fine. It does not help. 7. The white figure lifts a hand. The skin is pale and thin. The wand points. The mouth shapes a new curse that is old and cruel. The air around the tip of the wand darkens. The hand shakes. 6. Harry watches the tremor with no feeling. He notes it. He files it. 5. He leans his head to one side to see past the white face to the circle of men who have lied to themselves so often that the lies sit in their bones like marrow. 4. Pettigrew whispers a plea that no one hears because the air is too tight for sound to carry fast. 3. The white figure finds a word and shouts it. The curse launches and breaks against nothing. 2. Harry lifts 2 fingers. The motion is slow and small. 1. He speaks a low-tier death spell without decoration. The graveyard listens and obeys. The force of it bypasses every guard because he has told the world for the last 12 seconds that the laws are not the same, and the world believes him. Tom Riddle dies. There is no scream. There is a small sound like a match going out. The body falls without drama. The mask nearest the ground turns and shows the inside for the first time in years. It is simple wood and paint. That is all it ever was. No one runs. No one speaks. They are the kind of men who have trained themselves not to move until they are told to move. The one who once told them to move is gone. The air begins to breathe again. Harry looks at Pettigrew. Pettigrew tries to be nothing. Harry flicks 2 fingers and binds him. The cords are not rope. They are a decision in the shape of cord. Pettigrew falls to his knees and rocks. He does not cry. His eyes are empty of everything that is not fear. Harry walks to Cedric. He kneels. He puts a hand on the cold shoulder. He closes Cedric's eyes. He looks at the cup. He looks at the circle. He looks at the corpse on the ground and knows that this act will be told in 1,000 wrong ways no matter how clean he keeps it. He lifts his hand and calls a door that opens to the headmaster office. He steps through with Cedric's body lifted by a spell that carries with care and not with display. The door shuts on the graveyard. In the office, Fawkes cries, a single note that sounds like air tearing. Dumbledore stands at once. His face breaks and does not show it to the boy. I am sorry, Harry says. It is the truth. It is also a report. Madame Pomfrey arrives at a run and stops. She knows at a glance. She sets her hand on Cedric's hair. She does not move it. She looks at Harry's face and then at Dumbledore and then at the floor. She murmurs that she will make him look as if he is asleep and not crushed. She does not cry yet. Dumbledore moves to his cabinet and takes out 2 vials. He hands one to Pomfrey without looking. He drinks the other, steadies his hands. He closes his eyes for 1 breath and opens them. Tom, he asks. Gone, Harry says. How? Dumbledore asks. Harry tells him without decoration. He does not name the skill. He describes its effect. He describes the 12 seconds as an open gate that turns walls into painted lines on a floor. Dumbledore listens with his face set to calm. When Harry finishes, Dumbledore sits in the chair behind his desk and folds his hands together. It is over then, he says. His voice does not lift. It does not attempt comfort. Yes, Harry says. Dumbledore looks at the boy and then past him. He looks at the fire. He looks at the ceiling. When he speaks again, the words are stripped to their frame. You are beyond me, he says. I will not reach for the Elder Wand. I will not pretend I can outthink or outfight what you have become. I ask for 2 things, and I know I ask much. First, do not make me your enemy. Second, if you must change the world, let me build rooms inside it where children can still grow. Harry considers. He remembers the circle they wrote. He remembers the slow breath that Hermione took when she set the line dignity under safety. He nods. Do not stand in my way, he says, and I will leave you that room. Dumbledore nods and lets out a breath that he has held since the cup spun away. Take him home to his father, Dumbledore says. I will deal with the rest. Harry leaves the body with Pomfrey. He steps out into a corridor that is too quiet. McGonagall stands there with her hands around her elbows, as if she is holding herself still by force. He tells her the truth in a sentence. She closes her eyes. When she opens them again, they are bright with water. She nods. You will eat something, she says. It is not a question. Yes, Harry says. He does not eat. He goes down to the Black Lake and stands with the wind at his back until the water surface loses shape. He hears the hum of the cracked relic in the workshop in his mind without trying. He sets the pieces of the next day on a board that no one else can see. He moves the first. Morning breaks gray. Owls cross the light like cuts. The paper on the table in the Great Hall has his name in thick letters on the front page because someone at the ministry has already sold a sentence for a coin. He does not read it. He folds the paper and sets it aside. Hermione sits with her hands around her cup. She does not speak. He reaches under the table and touches the back of her hand and lets go. She exhales, and that is all. Ron comes in late. He looks at the folded paper on Harry's plate and does not reach for it. He sits. He eats without looking up. He sets his fork down. We go with you, Ron says. No, Harry says. Ron glares. Hermione kicks his ankle and does not take her eyes off Harry. We be seen with you, she says. We do not speak. We stand. They look at your face and they look at ours and they remember that this started with classmates and not with a monster. He weighs the cost. He nods. They walk into the ministry atrium before noon. The fountain waits with its figures in polished stone and smug posture. Clerks stand in clusters that pretend they are not clusters. Oars lean in doorways. A reporter sets a quill at the ready and pretends the quill moved itself there. Cornelius Fudge steps out of the lift with a grin that looks welded on. Dolores Umbridge breathes at his shoulder and gives a little cough for attention that no one needed. Kingsley Shacklebolt stands near the guard stand with his arms folded. He watches without moving his head. Fudge strides toward Harry with hands out. My dear boy, Fudge says. A triumph. A victory for all of us. The ministry salutes you. Now, of course, there will be procedures, there will be statements, there will be proper channels. Leave it to those of us who understand how these things must be handled in public order. Harry does not take the offered hand. The Orr office is a failure, Harry says at a volume that carries to the fountain and no farther. You were warned about a return. You ignored it. Men died. Children died. Yesterday I corrected a mess that grew in the shadow of your desk. Today you will hand operational control of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement to people who can keep this country safe. Fudge blinks. His mouth opens. He laughs. The laugh dies in his throat when Harry looks at him. It is not a glare. It is not a threat. It is the gaze that measures a door before it takes it off its hinges. And who would that be? Fudge says. His voice shakes on wood. Harry turns his head and looks at Kingsley. Him, Harry says. And any orer who chooses work over politics. You will step aside. You will announce it yourself. You will smile and call it a victory. Umbridge tries to speak. The cough comes and goes. Her mouth opens for a poison that has always worked for her. Harry does not look at her. Her throat closes for a moment. She coughs again, harder, and finds no words. She takes a step back before she even means to. A ring of people has formed by now. Faces from desks. Faces from the lift. A small crowd with its breath held. Ron stands to Harry's right and does not smile. Hermione stands to his left with her shoulders square. She looks at faces and meets eyes like a judge. Kingsley pushes off the stand and walks to them. He stops 2 steps away and looks at Fudge. He does not look at Harry. Minister, Kingsley says. Fudge tries to salvage the shape of his day. This is absurd, Fudge says. Do you think I will hand the keys of this government to a child who cannot even be bothered to carry a wand? You cannot even follow the simplest of our laws. You cannot tell me how to run my ministry. Harry lifts a hand. The fountain water stills. The spray hangs in the air in 100 glass beads. The room goes quiet enough to hear 1 coin drop into a pocket. The stone figures tilt their heads as if they are listening. Harry lowers his hand. The water falls and catches the light all at once. The slap echoes. I am not here to argue, Harry says. I am here to set a new line. Your ministry can serve or it can be replaced. Decide now. Fudge looks around for help that will not come. Umbridge has taken 2 steps back and bites her lower lip in small careful nips. 2 undersecretaries look at their shoes. 1 clerk turns his quill to point down and holds it like a spear he will never use. Kingsley speaks again. His voice is flat and calm. Minister, he says, you can announce a reform and keep your office for a month while we build the structure. Or you can refuse and watch this building empty before the hour turns. I will not draw my wand against the person who ended the war in a graveyard while you were at lunch. Fudge swallows. His neck moves like a frog's for a beat. He looks at Harry. He sees nothing in the face. He looks at Hermione. He sees a mind that will not be fooled. He looks at Ron and sees loyalty that is a wall. Very well, Fudge says. He wipes his forehead with a handkerchief and tries to save a piece of his pride. He lifts his chin. He turns to the clerk with the quill. His voice shakes and then steadies by practice. He announces a transition to a new operational directorate in the Auror office. He names Kingsley as acting head for the period of reform. He says the words safety and stability and historic moment. He smiles for the noise it makes in the air. Harry does not smile. He looks at Kingsley. This is a beginning, Harry says. You will have my support where you request it. You will also have limits. Kingsley nods once. We will build a department that does not make me ashamed to wear the badge, Kingsley says. He does not thank Harry. He does not need to. Hermione touches Harry's sleeve and then lets go. Ron breathes out a long breath he had been hiding. The atrium sound returns. Not a roar, but a swell. People start to move as if something just ended and something else just started in the same space. Harry turns toward the row of lifts. He stops. He feels a pull at the back of his neck like cold fingers. It is not a spell from a man in this hall. It is a seam in the world taking a breath. He tilts his head. He does not show it on his face. He files the sensation with the one from the workshop when the cracked relic hummed. He knows what it means now. The line he drew last night will not hold forever. Something that notices power has turned its head. He steps into the lift. The doors close with a soft metal kiss. The box rattles once and rises. The day is not done. The old order is not dead. It is bleeding and bargaining in the same breath. The circle will meet at dusk to set the next rule. Hermione will bring a page filled with verbs. Ron will bring anger and a promise to keep it in his pocket. Kingsley will bring lists. Dumbledore will bring silence that asks questions without words. Harry stands with his hands at his sides and listens to the cables whisper. The light flickers once. The hum of the building settles into a steady note. When the doors open, the corridor beyond will be new ground. The world has accepted one fact. It has not yet understood the bill that follows. He walks out to meet it. Minister promises order. Harry folds the prophet once and slides it away. The hall is noisy in the Safeway schools are noisy. Buttered toast. Steam from tea. The smell of paper ink and roasted tomatoes. Hermione drops a slim folder beside his plate and sits. They pushed 3 pieces overnight, she says. 1 from the minister's office. 1 from Umbridge's friends. 1 planted as a concerned parent letter. Same nouns. Same verbs. Monster. Menace. Unaccountable. She taps the folder. We answer with structure. What do you need, he asks. Names and rooms, she says. Then we go. Ron drops onto the bench opposite. He looks tired and stubborn. I said I'd stand there, he mutters. I meant it. I'm not a fan of you turning the ministry into a toy. But I'll stand there. You do not speak unless I tell you to, Harry says. Comes out calm, not cruel. Ron nods once. I can do that. Hermione flips a page. DMLE has 2 choke points, she says. Evidence vault access and Auror dispatch. Control those and the office can't move without you. Wizengamot chamber locks are meaningless if we own the lifts and the corridor outside. Minister's door. 2 guards and a clerk who quits when you look at him. Umbridge keeps a private office off records. She has a personal file on half the school. Harry stands. We go, he says. They take the flue. Heat. Spin. Step. The atrium is bright and empty of citizens. Boots echo. Water hisses in the fountain. The guard desk is manned by a wizard whose eyes go big and then down. We're closed until 10, he starts. No, Harry says. The man sits without meaning to. His hands fold on the desk like they always meant to be there. He looks relieved and doesn't know why. Hermione points. Lifts. We start at the top and come down. They ride with no music. At the Department of Mysteries floor, the doors close again. At the minister's floor, the doors open to a corridor lined with framed photographs of ministers shaking hands with men now in prison or graves. Harry walks to the corner where 2 Aurors stand in front of the carved door. The older one has a scar on his cheek like a slash of chalk. The younger one licks his lips. State your business, the older one says. Stability, Harry says. Step aside. We have orders, the older one says, but softer now. Harry lets a thin sheet of pressure fill the hallway. Not wind. Not heat. Just a firm hand on the back of the room that moves everything 1 pace forward. The older Auror steps aside. The younger follows. No wands come up. No courage is spent that can't be saved. Hermione exhales. The clerk inside looks up from a ledger and drops his quill. Ink spots his cuffs. He tries to speak. Fails. Tries again. Ministers in conference, he says. Harry opens the door. Fudge freezes halfway through a sentence about confidence. Umbridge stands beside him with a pink folder and a cat brooch that seems to watch all by itself. 2 undersecretaries hover in the corner like badly trained ornaments. Good morning, Fudge says, voice too bright. He reaches for a smile and finds a crack in it. You were arranging headlines, Harry says. We are arranging reality. Umbridge coughs her little cough. You cannot simply burst in, she says. This is the minister's. Harry turns his head. Her cough stops between throat and lips. She chokes on air and hears the sound she makes. Her eyes shine. She steps back 1 small step. Hermione opens her folder and reads as if they are already sitting to sign. Effective immediately. Operational command of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement transfers to an acting director. Nominee, Auror Kingsley Shacklebolt. Scope. All field operations, Auror deployment, evidence chain, warrant issuance. The minister retains ceremonial oversight and public communication. Harry nods to her to continue. Second, temporary suspension of Wizengamot hearings for 2 weeks while audit teams review process bias and bribery exposure. Third, secure custody transfer of Death Eater property to a state trust pending restitution to victims. Fourth, creation of a joint oversight circle to review methods used to enforce public safety. Circle members: McGonagall, Snape, Pomfrey, Flitwick, Hermione Granger, 2 goblin auditors nominated by Gringotts, One student delegate selected by prefects. Fudge shakes his head as if it will wake him from a dream. You cannot dictate to this office, he says. There are procedures, committee votes, press briefings. Harry tips his fingers. The window latches click shut. The clock hand stops between numbers. You can call it a reform, he says. You can put your name on the notice. This building needs to work. You failed to make it work. I am fixing it. Kingsley, Hermione says. Right, Harry says. Lift. They ride to the orifloor. The hallway smells like coffee, wax, and tired leather. Kingsley stands in the middle, arms folded, one eyebrow slightly raised as if to ask whether the world is finally going to do what it should. You're early, he says. Couldn't wait, Hermione answers. Harry speaks without edge. You will run this, he tells Kingsley. Clean lines. Clean records. No torture. No show raids. If you need force, you ask. If I refuse, you get a reason and an alternative. If I act in a crisis, I report to the circle within a day. You object, we revise methods. We do not revise the aim. People live. Kingsley studies him. His voice is low. If you cross the lines we set, I resign, he says. And I will oppose you with everything I have. We clear. Clear, Harry says. Kingsley nods at his captains. 2 peel off for evidence. 2 for dispatch. 1 for records. They move fast, not loud. The doors close with firm clicks. Hermione hands Kingsley a sheet. Initial reforms, she says. Body cams for wand discharge. She taps the line. Ink that records spells cast in the last hour on contact. A public log, redacted for ongoing investigations, posted daily. Pair rookies with veterans who didn't drink through the last war. Kingsley schemes. Good, he says. He tucks the page under his arm. The Wisengamot floor next. Marble. Velvet ropes. Doors that like to make people feel small. Harry does not push the doors. He speaks to the locks and they decide to be open for a while. Inside the chamber, a handful of old families have come early to posture. Robes. Rings. Whispering voices with opinions shaped like knives. Malfoy turns, then stops himself from sneering. He sees the boy, the girl, the red-headed friend, and the air around the boy that says the room is now furniture. This is illegal, someone says. This is necessary, Hermione answers. The circle will deliver a temporary suspension of proceedings. You will receive notice. Spend the fortnight reading a book on ethics. Harry doesn't look at faces. He walks the aisle, stops at the central lectern, and places a small square of knot light on the wood. It is a seal the public won't notice and the chamber will never forget. It hums once and vanishes. The room feels different afterward, like a desk after you sand it flat. He turns away. Footsteps behind. A whisper. Monster. He does not answer. He has no time for names that make the speaker feel brave. Atrium. Noon. People now. Clerks. Ors. Couriers. One new switch with a quill that wiggles like an excited ferret. Fudge arrives with a sheet of paper and a public smile. He reads the statement Hermione drafted and he did not. He stumbles only once on the word audit. Kingsley accepts a badge and does not grin. Umbridge stands tight as wire and does not cough. The fountain's bronze which looks down at her empty hands. For a second Harry thinks he could place a broom there or a rulebook. He doesn't. We are not finished, Hermione says quietly. Last decree. Harry steps forward. His voice carries without sound work. I declare the Sorcerer Kingdom of Britain, he says. It is a structure, not a banner. It exists to provide safety where you live and work. It will not ask permission to stop murder. It will not wait for committees while you bury your dead. It will publish its rules. It will accept counsel. It will not accept sabotage. A dozen breaths catch. Someone drops a pen. The sound is tiny and loud at once. He lifts his hand. Starting today we deploy municipal labor that does not tire, he says. Streets cleaned. Sewers repaired. Farms harvested to quota. Muggle-born children assigned ward escorts for travel. No one will go hungry in winter because a clerk lost a form. Skeletons, someone whispers, horrified. Workers, Hermione says, firm. Bound by strict rules. No entry to private homes. No night patrols on residential streets. Names and routes posted. Abuse forbidden. She glances at Harry. He nods. She goes on. How self-injuries drop to zero by replacing dangerous tasks. We publish every incident report. If a worker breaks a rule, we destroy it and fix the rule that let it happen. The atrium mutters like a hive poked with a stick. Then Kingsley lifts a hand and stills it. We start with sanitation and transit, he says. No patrols. No scare tactics. If anyone lays hands on a worker, an Auror will handle it. Not a bone knight. A witch near the fountain crosses her arms. And when your boy king changes his mind, she says. Hermione answers. Then the circle stops him, she says. We are not building a cult. We are building a system. Harry turns away. The work begins even as people argue. Diagon Alley. Afternoon light. A thin skeleton in a city tabard sweeps a gutter. The broom moves in steady arcs. It does not chatter. It steps aside for a child without being told. An old wizard in a tweed coat stares and then shrugs and spits into the street because habits are hard to set down. The skeleton moves 3 steps, sweeps, and the spit is gone. The old wizard snorts and goes inside to buy buttons. A goblin foreman and a human engineer stand over a cracked paving stone near Flourish and Blots. They speak fast and low. The worker holds a slab steady while the men align the replacement. A witch from the owl post walks past and mutters, but her eyes keep sliding back to the open pipe that is getting replaced without a week of notices. In a field 2 hours north, a line of undead reaps wheat with sickles that never nick. A farmer watches with his hands in his pockets. His teenage daughter counts the bales and shakes her head at the speed. Back in the ministry, Kingsley's new dispatch room hums. The inkstones record wand work at the point of use. An Auror finishes binding a burglar and presses his palm to the ink. The record glows and cools. He looks down at the mark and then at his partner. He doesn't say it, but his shoulders drop. One less lie to tell on a form. Hermione and Harry sit at a narrow table in an empty conference room with a stack of pages between them. She is drafting. He is revising. She circles verbs. He crosses out flourishes. Don't call it mercy, she says. Call it policy. The minute you use romance words, people stop reading the rules. Agreed, he says. He underlines publish. He writes schedule beside it. She smiles at the margin. Kingsley steps in, leans on the doorframe. You'll get blowback for the skeletons, he says. Church committees. Old blood. Parents. You sure you want that first? Yes, Harry says. It saves lives by morning. Kingsley nods. He taps the paper stack with one knuckle. I'll want the code posted by dawn, he says. And I want a number people can ring when a worker makes them nervous. A human voice answers. Hermione is already writing the box for the posting. Done, she says. Kingsley looks between them and shakes his head once. Not no. Just the you two are terrifying kind of shake. He leaves. The day runs hard. Notices go up. Lifts rattle. Aurors move desks. Umbridge slithers into a new office and starts making lists of reasons change is illegal. Fudge gives interviews about his decisive leadership. The prophet sets a quill on both sides to look balanced. The wireless carries Kingsley's cool baritone, not Harry's. At dusk, they step back into Hogwarts. The castle smells like rain and stone. Students swarm toward the hall, buzzing. Word travels fast even without owls. We eat, Hermione says. Then we meet the circle at 9. Snape will scowl. McGonagall will not. Flitwick will fix 3 lines of your drafting with one suggestion. Pomfrey will add a whole section none of us thought of. Good, Harry says. The great hall is loud and bright. Candles float and drip nothing. Plates fill. The world tries to be normal for an hour. They sit. Lavender squeals about brooms. Dean argues about Quidditch standings. Neville stares at a notice that says skeletons will sweep corridors after curfew, and looks uncertain until Hermione leans past Harry and says quietly, "Rules protect you, not them." He nods and eats his carrots. Across the hall, Ron arrives late, jaw set, ears red. He walks the aisle between tables with a pace that means he talked himself into this on the stairs. Harry clocks his breathing. Fast. Shoulders high. He knows the signs. He stands. Ron stops at the end of the Gryffindor table. He looks at Harry. He looks at the room. His wand is in his hand before his better sense can shut his fingers. The words leave his mouth like he threw them, not like he chose them. Stupefy. The bolt crosses open air, bright and simple. Gasps pop around the room like corn. Someone shrieks. Someone laughs because they always laugh when they shouldn't. Harry lifts a hand. 2 fingers. The spell stops a foot from his chest and hangs there, red and humming. Its light paints his face. He closes his fingers and the light folds into nothing, like snuffing a candle with wet fingers. Silence falls in a hard wave. Cutlery stops. Benches creak. Hermione's breath catches and then steadies. McGonagall rises at the high table so fast her chair tips. Harry looks at Ron. Not angry, not sad, just looking. Ron's chest heaves. His eyes are bright and lost. Don't, Hermione whispers, but too late to stop anything. Harry speaks so everyone can hear. Sit, he says. No, Ron says. His voice breaks on the word. Then learn, Harry says. He raises his hand a fraction. Every wand in the hall, teacher and student, rises 1 inch from its owner's grip and hovers. A collective intake of breath becomes one sound. He lets them fall back into hands, not onto stone. He is not here to humiliate anyone. He is here to draw a line. Ron flinches as his own wand settles back against his palm. His fingers close around it like a reflex he didn't ask for. Detention, McGonagall says from the dais, voice sharp as a snapped twig. Her eyes don't leave Harry's. Her chin lifts the smallest bit. Circle. 9 o'clock. She means now. Harry doesn't look away from Ron. We talk after, he says, quiet this time. In a room with a door and chairs. No spells. Just sentences. Ron's throat works. He nods once because pride won't let him do more. Around them the hall breathes again. Noise builds, thin first, then thicker. Lavender starts to whisper. Seamus swears under his breath. Ginny stares at her plate like she can will it to explain the world. Hermione squeezes Harry's sleeve and lets go. Her fingers are cold. Circle, she says. He nods. They walk out together under 100 stairs. The doors shut on the buzz. Behind them, Ron sits hard. He rubs his face. He looks at his hands. He whispers something into his palms that no one hears. Ahead of them, stone stairs climb. Footsteps echo. Snape is already in the room when they arrive. Scowl set. Arms folded. McGonagall stands by the window, jaw tight. Flitwick flips through Hermione's draft and smiles at one line like a teacher who just found a perfect answer on a test. Pomfrey lays a hand on a chair back like it is a patient. The circle begins. Outside, in the dark near the Black Lake, a skeleton worker empties a bin and sets it back straight. Exactly where it was, lid aligned, no rattle. The water slaps stone. The wind carries damp and the faint, iron smell of rain. Above all of it, just for an instant, the sky thins like glass pressed too hard. A seam in the world breathes in and out. No one sees it yet. The room is small, warm, and quiet. 2 chairs, a low table, a window that shows the lake. Wards sit in the walls like calm breath. The door shuts behind Harry with a soft click. Ron stands by the window, fists in his jumper. His eyes are red. He has been talking to himself to stay brave. He turns when Harry enters and tries to grin. Twitches and dies. No wands, Harry says. Ron drops his into a drawer built into the table. Harry can feel the ward note change as the drawer seals. Sit, Harry says. I'll stand, Ron says. Sit, Harry repeats. Ron sits. He leans forward, elbows on knees, hands locked together so tight the knuckles show white. You scared everyone in the hall, Ron says. You lifted every wand like it was a trick. He swallows, you made us feel small. I showed control to stop panic, Harry says. Ron laughs once, a hard, empty sound. Control, right? That what we're calling it now. He rubs his face and looks at the table. He starts fast, and then the words trip over each other, and he pushes them out anyway. We were 11, and there was a troll, and you didn't run, you remember that? Yeah, and the chess set, and the car, and the spiders, and the time you stood in front of me when that curse came in the Department of Mysteries, and I thought, that's my best mate, that's Harry, stupid, brave, and a bit thick, and you were ours, not theirs. He points toward the window, meaning the world. Not theirs to parade or blame or worship. Ours. Mine and Hermione's. And now he waves a hand, this cold, quiet, king of skeletons. You keep saying stability like you've swallowed a ministry memo. You don't even breathe right anymore. Harry lets the words land. The mental check hums once, steady and smooth. Anger tries to rise. It is suppressed. Sorrow tries to form a shape. It dissolves. I am keeping people alive, Harry says. The ministry could not. We both saw it. We saw idiots, Ron snaps. Liars. Cowards. Not proof that you should sit a throne and decide what a person gets to feel. That's what this is, isn't it? Decide and it happens. He scrubs both hands through his hair. Bloody hell, mate, you killed, You killed him like it was a chore you were late to. You looked at Fudge and turned the building into a toy. And the worst bit, the bit that is eating me, is I know you're right about them. They were rubbish. I still don't want this. There is a long, thin quiet. Ron's chest heaves. His eyes shine and he blinks fast. He is shaking in the wrists now. He hides it by clenching harder. You can leave, Harry says. I will fund it. Ward it. You can live in a place where this does not touch you. I will keep you safe anyway. Ron stares at him like the words were a slap. That's not living, he says. That's hiding from my best friend because he turned into he stops, breathes, starts again lower, into something I don't know how to talk to. I can't sit in the common room and pretend this is fine. I can't walk Diagon Alley and nod at a skeleton with a broom and say cheers, mate, for keeping the gutters tidy while the boy I shared a dorm with decides what freedom means. Can't, Harry. I won't. He drags a sleeve across his face and does not pretend it was sweat. You were always the one who went too far for us, he says. For me. For Hermione. You did it because you cared. Do you hear me? Because you cared. I can't find that in your voice now. Where did it go? Harry feels it, a small, bright ache trying to press up from under the still surface. The mental check moves and the ache flattens. The room stays steady. I care, Harry says. I act like this because I care. Feeling it would make me slower. People die when I am slow. Ron shakes his head hard. No. People live because you choose right. Feeling is how you know what right even is. Do you hear yourself? You sound like he squeezes his eyes shut. Like him. Not you know who. The other one. The old man in the office. Everything is a plan. Everything is necessary. He opens his eyes. If this is necessary, prove it. Don't lift my wand. Don't freeze my throat. Don't stare me into doing what you want. Just be my friend for 5 minutes and hear me say stop. Harry watches his face. The request is simple. The cost is high. If Ron walks out of this room unchanged, he will stand up in public and fight every step. He will rally others. He will light matches in rooms with gas on the floor. He will be brave and he will break. We can choose work, Harry says. I can give you duties that matter. I can put you with Kingsley. You will see the numbers. You will see deaths drop. You will see homes warmed and streets safe. It will satisfy you. Ron laughs again. It hurts to hear. Satisfy me. Like I'm a hungry cat. I'm not asking for a toy, Harry. I'm asking for my mate back. He leans in. His voice goes quiet and rough. Mum would say you've lost your heart, he says. She'd make you tea and shout and hug you and you'd hate it and you'd come back to dinner anyway. Dad would ask you about plugs and look at you with those soft eyes and you'd crumble a bit and admit you were scared. It's all right to be scared. It's not all right to stop being human so it's easier to make charts. Harry looks down at his hands. He flexes them once. The skin is cool. He can track every pulse of mana in the room like a list. On the inside of that list there is a shape that used to be a boy who cried over broken wands and shouted on broomsticks and laughed at Christmas jumpers. He tries to touch that shape. The touch slides off. I cannot give you what you want, Harry says. Then I'll fight you, Ron says at once. Voice raw. I'll stand in front of Hermione if I have to. I'll stand in front of anyone. You'll have to hex me or worse. And if you do, I'll still be right. He wipes his face again and breathes like he has a stitch. I don't want to, Harry. But I will. Harry stands. The chair leg whispers on the floor. Ron's eyes flick to the door and back to Harry's face. You won't listen, Ron says. You never do when you get like this. First year with the stone. Fourth year with the tournament. You make the choice and you drag us along and it works out and then we all say fine then. Not this time. I won't be dragged. Harry nods once. It is not agreement. It is acknowledgement of the shape of the moment. I am not killing you, he says. I will not cage you. I will not erase you. I will take your pain and your anger and set them where they cannot burn you or anyone else. You will be safe. You will be happy. Ron goes very still. His mouth opens and closes. What does that mean? He whispers. What are you going to do to me? Harry does not step closer. He keeps his hands visible and still. A high tier charm, he says. It builds a stable, personal reality around your mind. You will live a life you would have chosen. You will not be harmed. You will not be alone. Your body will be cared for. Your family will see you. They will think you are convalescing. You will be peaceful. Ron's breath comes fast now. He shakes his head. No, no. You don't get to pick my life because you think it's tidy. You don't get to put me in a box and call it mercy. He tries to stand and his knees don't want to. He pushes anyway. He is on his feet. He takes one step and stops because the ward hum tells him there is nowhere to go. Fight me instead, he says. Duel me. Let me lose. Let me know I lost. Harry's jaw tightens. He does not raise his voice. You would not lose. You would break. And then you would get up and fight again. And again. Until you are dead or I am. Neither outcome is acceptable. Ron's eyes shine. He swallows hard. Please, he says. Please don't do this. Please, Harry. Please, mate. I'm talking to you, not the thing that talks through you. I know you're in there. I know you can hear me. Harry takes one breath and feels the old shape press against the surface and the old shape says stop. He's your brother? Stop. And the mental check moves like a hand covering a lamp and the room is steady again. I am sorry, Harry says. The words are true. They do not hurt. No, Ron says. He backs away until his calves hit the chair and he sits hard. Don't you dare say sorry, and then Harry lifts 2 fingers and speaks the spell. The air shifts. The wards thrum once and settle. The room is the same. Ron blinks. His breath evens. His shoulders unlock a little at a time. His eyes focus past Harry to something over his shoulder that is not there. What? Ron whispers. His face changes. Surprise. Relief. He exhales a laugh that is not the laugh from before. It is soft and full. He looks down at his hands as if they hold something warm. What do you see? Harry asks. He files the answer as data, not voyeurism. Ron smiles, small and stunned. Pitch, he says. Sunday crowd noise. I'm not even tired. It's easy. Coach says I've got the touch. Dad's in the stands. He saved the good seats. Course he did. Mum's got a banner and it's awful. Jin's laughing. And he blushes, eyes going brighter. Tonks, He swallows and grins wider. She's got pink hair. She looks ridiculous. She's waving like a loon. He stops and shakes his head like he can't believe it. We're happy. He closes his eyes and leans back. His whole body loosens by degrees. The little room hums quiet. Harry stands very still. He watches for strain. He sees none. The charm locks in, self-sustaining, monitored. He sets hard rails. No pain. No fear. No command channel. The door opens. Hermione steps in, shuts it, and stops dead. She takes in Ron, the smile, the way his fingers twitch like he is holding a broom. Her throat works. What did you do? She asks. No heat. Just the shape of a question that needs a clean answer. Harry tells her. Plain words. No flourish. The name of the charm. The rails. The care plan. The reporting. He does not hide the choice. Hermione listens without moving. By the end her hands are shaking. She tucks them into the sleeves of her jumper and steps closer to Ron. She sits on the second chair and watches his face for a long time. Tears build and do not fall. He looks happy, she says. Her voice is thin. He is, Harry says. She closes her eyes. Opens them. Looks at Harry. You took him from me, she says. I removed his suffering, Harry says. And the instability he would cause. She flinches at the second part and nods at the first. She hates that she understands. She hates that understanding is not the same as approval. Say it, Harry says. Do not leave it in your throat. It will rot there. She nods once. It is monstrous, she says. Not in the loud way people use the word. In the quiet way that lives in law books. You reached into his mind and changed the world for him because it was easier than changing yours. It saves lives. It is still monstrous. Harry stands and takes it. He does not defend. He does not justify. He does not ask for forgiveness he cannot feel. We will write rules so you cannot do this again without a higher bar, she says. Not never. I am not naive, but rare. With review. With record. With signatures from the circle. With sunset clauses. With an exit plan if he ever asks to wake. He will not ask, Harry says. That is not the point. She snaps, and the anger in her voice steadies her hands. The point is you do not get to decide alone. Not on this. Not ever again. If you are what you say you are, a sovereign built on reason, then you bind yourself by reason. She swallows. And you bind yourself to me. Harry looks at Ron. The spell hums soft, a cradle in sound. He looks back at Hermione. Bind how, he asks. With work, she says. With oversight. With a ministry that is not a toy. With code you cannot rewrite without all of us watching. She steps in close. Her voice drops. With me telling you stop and you stopping. He files it. He tests it against plans. He nods. Yes, he says. She lets out a breath she has been holding since the door opened. She takes his hand. Her fingers are cold. She squeezes once. He does not squeeze back hard. He measures the pressure and matches it. You need to tell Molly and Arthur, she says. I will be there. You will not say the word efficient in that room. Understood, he says. She looks at Ron again. A small sound leaves her without her consent. She covers her mouth and swallows it. She wipes her eyes with the heel of her hand and breathes in through her nose. He is safe, Harry says. She nods without looking at him. I know, she says. She stands. We need to move him. Not far. Somewhere warm. Somewhere with windows. Someone should sit with him and read sometimes. Even if he can't hear it. It matters. Harry writes assignments in his head. He adds a line to his public ledger. He will not hide this. He will state it and take the cost. Come, she says. We still have to finish the circle. And then you will come with me to the office and sign the limits. They leave the room together. The wards fold behind them. Ron breathes a happy, even breath and lifts a hand to wave at someone only he can see. The corridor outside is cool. Night pushes against the windows. The lake is a dark plate. A skeleton worker crosses the path below with a bag of rubbish and drops it into a cart without a sound. Halfway to the stairs, Hermione stops. She turns to him. Her face is pale and set. She steps in and kisses him. It is soft and sure. It lasts a second. 2. She pulls back and studies his eyes. Anything, she asks. He waits for the surge that should be there. The old shape of it presses up and the mental check smooths it flat. There is heat at his mouth. There is data in his skin. There is no rush. He shakes his head once. I am sorry, he says. I know, she says. We manage. She takes his hand again and starts walking. When she speaks, her voice is steady. Tomorrow we publish the first version of the Code of Methods. You will sign a promise not to use mind charms without circle consent except in a true, immediate crisis that threatens lives. You will list the thresholds. You will put your name to the report on Ron. I will write the cover. Kingsley will attest. McGonagall will add a note on dignity. We will take the storm together. Yes, he says. They climb. The door to the old Transfiguration classroom is open. McGonagall stands at the board with a quill and a list of headings. Snape sits with his arms folded and his face like a closed book. Flitwick adjusts his spectacles and smiles at the subclause about inkstones. Pomfrey adds a section on aftercare. Hermione steps to the table and lays down a fresh page. Title across the top, Mindwork and Consent. Subheads. Criteria. Witnesses. Peel. Care. Sunset. McGonagall's eyes flick to Harry's face. She takes in the new line there. Not grief. Not relief. Something that looks like a decision that will not be unmade. It is done, she says. Not a question. Yes, Harry says. She nods once. Then we write so it happens less. They work. They argue verbs. They set thresholds high. They add a space for a victim's future will. They build a lock and give out keys. When it is finished, Harry signs his name first. His hand is steady. Hermione signs next. Her mouth is a hard line. Kingsley adds his signature on a copy in the Ministry by Flew. McGonagall's quill scratches last with neat, sharp strokes. Silence sits with them for a moment. The room smells of ink and stone and the faint bitter of ward smoke. Hermione closes the folder and looks at him. "You are not alone," she says, as if she is carving the sentence into the table. "You will not be allowed to make yourself alone." He nods. The words land. The feeling does not. The truth still matters. They step out into the corridor. The castle breathes around them like it always has. Students sleep. Prefect yawns on patrol. The lake taps the shore. Harry looks through the window toward the far trees. For a heartbeat, the night air pulls thin, like skin over bone. A seam opens and closes. He notes it, files it, builds around it. He thinks of Ron's smile in the small room. He thinks of Hermione's mouth and the way her fingers laced into his. He thinks of a throne that is not a chair but a duty. He thinks of the code he just signed and the part of himself that needed it. The ache tries to rise again. The mental check moves. The world stays steady. He walks on. Rain ticks on the windows of the command room in the old Transfiguration wing. The air smells like ink, warm stone, and tea. A slate board holds columns of figures. A clock clicks in a slow, even way that does not mind being ignored. Harry reads through the morning ledger. Sanitation routes met. 2 worker incidents resolved on scene by Aurors with a warning and a follow-up visit. No injuries. Farms report early harvest completion in 3 northern counties. A goblin audit note flags 3 vaults for restitution. He ticks boxes. He signs his name. He does not feel pride. He notes completion and moves to the next line. Hermione stands at the window with a folder against her chest. She watches the rain for a count of 5 and turns back. "You missed breakfast," she says. "I ate," he answers. "Tea is not eating," she says. "Sit." 10 minutes. He sits. She pushes toast and a boiled egg across the table like a nurse with a stubborn patient. He peels the egg. The shell comes away clean. His hands are steady. He eats. The food lands. It is fuel. She slides a second folder over. Budget and public notice proofs. The circle's edits are in blue. McGonagall wants the school escorts to stop at the village boundary, not the school gate. Flitwick added language on spell-ink retention. Pomfrey added an aftercare section for mindwork cases. Kingsley wants the wand discharge logs to include context notes, not just spells cast. He reads. He approves every line with a mark and 3 initial letters. Hermione exhales. "It works," she says, quieter. "Yes," he says. She watches him for a beat, then taps the ledger totals. "You built a system," she says. "You can let it carry some of the weight." He looks up. The silence that follows is not empty. It is a ledger column he does not know how to fill. The door opens. Kingsley steps in with a wet coat and a dry face. 2 items, he says. 1 good, 1 not. Good first, Hermione says. Azkaban transfer is complete, Kingsley says. The last Death Eaters left in Ministry custody have been moved to the island hospital. No Dementors. Human staff. Warded cells. Independent review. He glances at Harry. "Thank you for not posting bone knights outside those doors. They would not help," Harry says. "The wards work." Kingsley nods. His mouth tightens. "The other thing," he says. "Upper Flagley sent a call at dawn. Something hit the churchyard in the night. It is not a curse. 2 villagers are missing. 1 cow is wrong. My Aurors cordoned the lane and sent a runner instead of flew. Per code." He looks from Harry to Hermione. "I have a feeling this reaches your desk, not mine." Hermione closes her eyes and opens them. "We go," Harry says. "Now." Kingsley shakes rain from his sleeve. "I'll meet you there with a small team," he says. "Shackle code 4, observe only. No wand work unless you give it." "Yes," Harry says. The door shuts behind him. Hermione is already pulling the proto-world item from its warded box. The cracked relic hums like a bottle with wind over it. Hair lifts on Harry's arms. The hum answers a smaller sound in his skull he has ignored for weeks. She hears it too. Her eyes flick up. It's louder, she says. He nods. Gate, he says. The door that opens is not dramatic. It is a clean cut in the air, a step from stone and ledger smell to the wet cold of a village morning. Upper Flagley sits gray and small under a low ceiling of cloud. Thatched roofs drip. Smoke rises in thin lines. The church sits hunched at the lane's end. The graveyard looks like quiet always looks, until the eye sees the wrong place and cannot unsee it. The wrong place is a circle where the grass has grayed. The stones closest to it lean back as if pushed by a slow hand. The air above it shivers the way air does over a summer road. But the morning is cold. 2 oarers stand with Kingsley at the gate. Wands holstered. Palms open. They nod. Kingsley tips his head toward the circle without stepping closer. No spells, he says. We tested a stick. It went soft. Hermione kneels at the path edge and sets down the relic. It hums higher, a thin, needling tone. She cracks open a notebook and writes numbers before she knows what they measure. Her hair frizzes in the damp. She tucks it behind one ear. Harry steps to the brink. He does not touch the air above the circle. He listens. It is not sound. It is the shape of missing sound. The world here is thin like skin stretched over the back of a hand. Pomfrey arrives by gate with a satchel and a face that knows too many kinds of pain. She glances at Harry for a go-ahead. He nods. She moves to the cow in the far corner, shielded by Kingsley's team. The animal breathes. The breath makes a wet bubble at its nostril. Its flank ripples wrong, like something underneath is shifting weight to a side that does not exist. Pomfrey covers her mouth, steadies, and takes a pulse. She closes her eyes and focuses. When she looks up, her voice is firm. It's alive, she says. It's not dying. It's... She searches for the right word and picks a simple one. Scrambled. If I cast, I could lock it in place. That might kill it. It might not. We need a pen and a blanket and someone to sit with it. She looks at Hermione. I am not losing a cow to panic. Hermione nods. She writes a line on a form. Kingsley points 2 locals toward a shed. They do as asked because his voice is the kind people decide not to argue with. Harry crouches and studies the circle. The relic's tone spikes when he leans closer. He looks back at Hermione. Reading, he says. She shows him the numbers. Low, steady pulses under a larger wave, as if something is breathing far away and its breath is making tides in the field. She keeps her voice flat. Kingsley's aurors watch her hand with wide eyes and relief. So, she says, analysis mode. Not a curse. Not dark arts. Not a portkey residue. Not a goblin breach. Not unspeakable public work. The angle disturbance is not mechanical. It is not hate-based magic. She glances at the relic response to use. She flips a page. You, she says. The super tier. The gate load. It's like we pulled at a seam every time and the seam is now aware. Kingsley follows, slow. Aware how, he asks. Like a hole that wants to be a door? Hermione nods. Maybe. Or like a door that wants to be a mouth. No metaphors, Harry says. He is not scolding. He is keeping the room on a track. Right, she says. Sorry. She points at the numbers. The wave is periodic. The amplitude is growing. If the period tightens, we get a hit. If it spikes, we get a tear. How long, Kingsley asks. Hours, Hermione says. Not days. Not minutes. She looks at Harry. We need shields on the village perimeter that can flex to muggle eyes. We need evacuation ready but quiet. We need St. Mungo's to set aside a ward for structural injuries that don't fit a curse chart. And we need you to stop casting anything large until we see the pattern settle. Harry nods. Kingsley, he says. On it, Kingsley answers. He walks away, already speaking into a small mirror for dispatch. Pomfrey stands from the cow and scrubs her hands. I need blankets, warm water, and a steady boy who won't run if it twitches, she says. Hermione points and a local steps forward without being asked. His hands shake, but he moves. Harry and Hermione walk the circle's edge together. Mud sucks at shoes. The villagers watch from doors with hands on frames. One child peeks around a skirt. A skeleton worker waits at the lane turn with a broom tucked against its shoulder like a soldier holding a flag. It does not approach the cordon. Harry forgets, just for a second, that everyone else can see how wrong that looks. Hermione speaks low. It hurts to say it, she says, but this is the answer to every lecture you gave Dumbledore about control. Being this strong has a cost on the world. It is knocking back. He nods. We will pay, he says. She glances sideways. Her mouth softens. You always do, she says. They finish the circuit. The relic's hum lowers when they move away. It is a relief and a warning at once. Back at the gate, Kingsley has a map unrolled on a box. Oris mark houses in charcoal. Evacuation routes run to hedgerows and behind the pub. 2 goblins from the audit team arrive by gate with their own instruments and a look that says they came to watch a debt being paid. One of them, short and old, lifts a brow at Harry. You set rules, the goblin says. You hold to them. That is rare. It works, Harry says. The goblin grunts. Do not die, the goblin says. We have an audit Thursday. Hermione almost smiles. It fades. Harry looks up. The cloud ceiling is a flat sheet. For a heartbeat, a ripple passes under it. No thunder follows. He turns to Kingsley. Level 2, Harry says. Quiet mobilization. No bone knights in sight. Patrol 1 ring out. Keep the muggles from walking into it with a dog. If the amplitude spikes, you call and then you run. Kingsley nods. His jaw flexes. And you, he says. We set the shield, Harry says. Then we go home and build a plan that does not guess. Hermione tucks the relic away and draws her wand. She catches herself and lowers it. You, she says to Harry. He lifts a hand and shapes the shield without speaking. It is not a dome. It is a membrane tuned to let people pass and stop force. It tastes bad to anything that doesn't belong. Hermione watches the shimmer and writes the frequency on a card for Flitwick. They gate back to Hogwarts. The step down into the cool corridor feels like dropping into water. The castle's wards brush over Harry's skin like a check-in. Library. Flitwick is already clearing a table, stacking journals into neat piles with wand flicks as tidy as his handwriting. He looks up over his spectacles. Tell me you brought numbers, he says. Hermione slides him her notes. He reads fast. His finger follows her hand-drawn graph. Yes, he says under his breath. Yes, all right. Picture it as, he stops himself and smiles at Hermione, as a pattern we can describe without images. Good. He looks at Harry. We can build a lattice tuned to that wave. Not to fight it, to slow it, to make the world stiff where it tries to sag. How long, Harry asks. An hour to draft, Flitwick says. 2 to set the points. We will need anchor stones outside the ward line. He looks at Hermione. We will need your relic to hold phase. Hermione nods. Do it, Harry says. They move. Flitwick sketches arrays with chalk on blue paper. Hermione writes version numbers and keeps the stack clean. Harry opens the castle vault with a hand on stone and takes down 3 dull things that do not want to be named. The Elder Wand sits in its box. He looks at it and does not touch. Not yet. Hermione sees his eyes catch. You'll need it, she says. Not for the lattice. For later. He closes the box. He leaves it on the table within reach. Hours pass in tight work. Ink stains fingers. Chalk dust blurs the air. Students bring tea and paper because McGonagall told them to and because they want to be part of it. Neville sets anchors in the greenhouse beds with gentle hands and a jaw set hard. Luna hums in the corner and says the air is thinner where the moon shows in daytime. By late afternoon, the lattice is drawn. Gates open and close in the fields around Upper Flagley as teams place stones and whisper the right numbers at them. Flitwick oversees 3 points in person, tiny and calm as always, and turns down offers to carry his satchel. Hermione presses the last seal on the plan and rubs her eyes. We need a break, she says. Food. 10 minutes. He nods. They step into a small side room off the library where a table sits with plates and a pot of stew. The room is warm and dim. The door shuts and makes a quiet click. She serves him and then herself. She leans back in her chair and studies him. Tell me one true thing you liked as a child, she says. Not useful. Liked. He takes a spoonful and swallows. He searches memory. The mental check does not block recall. It blocks the swell after. He names the fact. Borrowing Mrs. Fig's old chess set, he says. The pieces were scratched. The knight had a chip. It smelled like her cat food. Ron laughed at it. Hermione smiles. It is small and real. Okay, she says. Tell me one thing now that you like and do not call it efficient. He thinks. He answers with the same plain tone. Your edits, he says. I like that. I can give you a page and it comes back stronger. Her eyes go bright. She swallows. I'll take that, she says. She stands and comes around the table. She sits on the edge and puts a hand against his jaw. He does not pull away. She kisses him, slow and sure. He breathes. The world narrows to warm mouth. The smell of stew herbs. The sound of rain on stone. The ache rises. The mental check moves. The sound of rain is still rain. She pulls back and searches his face. She does not ask this time. She knows. She lays her forehead against his for a count of 5 and then gets up. I will not stop trying, she says. I know, he says. They return to work. At dusk, a runner from Kingsley staggers through the library doors. He is wet and wild-eyed but not hurt. Amplitude spike, he says. Twice. Then flat. The cow stood up. It looks wrong, but it's eating. 2 more villagers missing. No signs. No blood. The church bell rang once on its own. Hermione's jaw tightens. We need to go, she says. We go, Harry says. Flitwick tucks chalk and paper into his coat and pulls his hat low. I am coming, he says. No argument. Harry nods. Gate. Upper flag lay again. Night now. Torches line the lane but burn low. Light filtered through rain. The shield membrane shows as a thin haze when raindrops hit it and slide. Kingsley waits at the gate. Caution in the set of his shoulders and steel in his eyes. We lost Mrs. Bly and her nephew, he says. They were inside their cottage. The door was locked. No sign of breach. The ceiling is higher. He shakes his head once. The word wrong sits in his mouth and he does not spit it out. He keeps it and turns it into orders. Lattice points are placed. Your man in the greenhouse is very good with stones. Neville, Hermione says, relief and pride at once. Good. Harry lifts a hand. He tunes the shield to the lattice. The membrane takes the new load and hums. The relic in Hermione's hands rises a pitch and holds there like a kettle that will not boil. Flitwick closes his eyes and listens with his hands open. He nods. We bought time, he says. Not much. Enough to get people out if we must. Hermione draws breath to speak. She stops. The sky above the church pulls thin. Not ripping. Thinning like a bubble about to take a breath. Harry lifts his palm. The lattice holds. The bubble pauses. The relic tone flutters and steadies. A low sound comes then, not heard with ears. Every hair on every arm in the lane rises. The old goblin from earlier closes his eyes and bares his teeth in a way that is not a smile. It is tasting the fence, he says softly. No pictures, Hermione says out of habit. Her voice shakes. She takes Harry's sleeve and squeezes once. Her fingers are cold. Kingsley drops his voice. Tell me where you need me, he says. Cordon and hush, Harry says. No brave walks. If someone breaks, you carry them. If it tears, you run. I will stop it or I will fail. Either way you do not stay. Kingsley nods. He claps a hand to Harry's shoulder. Once, hard. It is not affection. It is a soldier's pact. He strides away, shouting low. Pomfrey appears at Harry's side like she teleported but did not. Her eyes go to his face, then to Hermione's hands, then to Flitwick's hat. If you die, she says in a tone that makes death feel like a detention, I will be very cross. Noted, Harry says. She nods. She puts a hand on his sleeve a second and is gone toward the improvised clinic in the pub. The sky thins again. The membrane pushes back. Rain runs in sheets. The church bell moves a fraction and is still. Hermione speaks without looking away. We need a war plan by morning, she says. Not just power. Structure. Chain of care. Muggle cover. Evacuation trees. Food lines. Clean water. She catches his gaze. If this rips the world in places we don't choose, our power isn't how we win. Our plan is. He nods. I'll draft the bones, she says. You set the limits. No city-scale spells near hospitals. No summonings within half a mile of a school. No bone nights on residential streets. We codify. We publish. People live because we told them how. Yes, he says. The bubble relaxes. The membrane hum lowers. The relic drops a note. The cow in the pen chews and looks bored. The villagers murmur and then pretend they did not. Kingsley returns, wet to the skin. Held for now, he says. My people hate this part. Waiting. Watching. Not breaking the thing that looks like a rule. You trained them well, Hermione says. He grunts, which is Kingsley for thanks. Harry looks at the church door. The wood is old and honest. He imagines stepping through to find the air wrong and the corners stretched. He files the image as a problem to solve, not a fear to nurse. We go back, he says. We build. We come back with a plan that can stand without me in the lane. Hermione nods. Her mouth is a thin line. Gate. Hogwarts again. The rain here is softer. The castle breathes. They walk to the vault together. The corridor smells like wax and dust. Harry lays his palm on the stone and feels the wards open. Shelves wait with objects that ought to have names and do not. The elder wand lies quiet in its box. He takes it. It is just wood and core. It is also a lever that moves too much. It sits in his hand like it was made for it, which is a lie. He sets it down on the table beside a thick ledger and a quill. Hermione watches his face. You hate that you need it, she says. Yes, he says. She lays the proto-world item next to the wand. The two things hum to each other in a way that makes the room feel smaller. She flips open a clean notebook and writes at the top. War Method Code version 0.1. Under it, plain headings. Evacuation. Shields. Summon costs. Hospital exclusions. Muggle cover. Command handoff. Peel. We do this now, she says. We put it in the circle by sunrise. Kingsley gets his copy before dawn. We publish at 8. We will be cursed by noon. We will be right by night. He nods. He picks up the quill. He writes the first line. No super-tier casting within school or hospital perimeters. He draws a box next to it for exceptions and writes. None. Hermione's mouth pulls. Caught between pain and relief. Good, she says. They work. They do not look at the clock. The castle quiets in layers as students sleep and fires sink to coals. The wind scrapes at a window somewhere high. At some point, her shoulder bumps his. She does not move away. He does not either. They write until the page edges curl with damp. When they finish the first pass, she leans back and rubs her eyes. 2 hours, she says. Then we get up and keep going. Can you sleep? Yes, he says. It is true because sleep is a function, not a luxury. She studies his face. I will stay, she says. In case you wake wrong. In case you need, she stops. She adjusts. In case we get a call. He nods. He does not say thank you. She does not ask for it. They push 2 chairs together by the table. She drops her shoes and curls on her side with her back to his arm. Close but not touching. He sets a ward to lift at the first change in the relic's hum. He closes his eyes. He dreams of quiet spreadsheets that fill themselves. It is not peace. It is order. He wakes twice to check the war plan is still on the table. It is near dawn. The ward brushes his skin like a moth. He opens his eyes. The relic sings a thin note. Not alarm. Reminder. Hermione is already sitting up. Hair wild. Eyes sharp. Time, she says. He nods and stands. He reaches for the elder wand. His fingers close. The room changes a fraction like air pressure before a storm. Hermione watches. Her face says 2 things at once. Do not use it unless you must, and please be strong enough when you have to. He sets the wand in a holster at his wrist, covered by his sleeve. He takes the relic in his other hand. They walk out into the corridor. Light is just beginning behind the cloud. The castle smells like damp and bread and something metallic the dawn always carries from the lake. They stop by the window above the courtyard. For a heartbeat, the sky over the far trees pulls thin and then smooths. He notes the change in period. He writes it in his head. He files it. He breathes. Hermione slips her hand into his. You are not alone, she says. She does not whisper it. She says it like an order. I know, he says. He does not feel the rush that sentence should bring. He carries it anyway. He will keep carrying it until the world stops pulling thin. They move. The day begins. The plan goes to the circle. Kingsley's copy goes by Flew with Pomfrey's notes clipped on. Flitwick checks the lattice lines with a tune in his head. McGonagall wakes the prefects and explains evacuation like she explains exams. You listen, you do it, you do not panic. A skeleton worker tips a bin in the courtyard and sets it back straight, lid aligned, as the first students cross with books under their arms. Above the lake, a seam in the sky breathes in and out, patient now, counting with them. The world holds. For the moment, morning breaks gray. The lattice holds a low hum that you can feel in your teeth. The war method code sits posted on the library door, the great hall board, and the ministry atrium. Students pass the notices with their bags against their hips. Aurors copy the exclusions onto their sleeve cards. Kingsley's dispatch repeats the lines without drama. No supertier within school or hospital perimeters. No summonings within half a mile of a school. No bone nights on residential streets. Evacuation trees by street and village. Command handoff if the sovereign is down or out of range. Harry signs the last stack for public posting. Hermione stamps the box that says, published at 8 o'clock. Flitwick checks the lattice frequency one more time with a small brass fork and a listening face. Kingsley steps out of the Flew with rain on his coat and a map case under his arm. Flagley wave tightened, he says. Twice since dawn. The church bell moved without wind. One more missing. My people are holding the cordon. The old goblin is still there. He refuses to leave before he writes 3 more audit conditions on my back. We go, Hermione says. We go, Harry says. Gate. Upper Flagley sits under a flat sky. The membrane shows faintly where raindrops smear across it. The air has the sour taste of thin places. Villagers stand in neat lines by the pub and the school. Bundled. Quiet. An Auror checks names against a slate and points to the next safe lane. No shouting. No panic. The code's tree works. The churchyard circle is wider. Headstones lean harder. The grass goes from green to ash at the edge and stays ash. Kingsley's people stand in pairs. Wands holstered. Palms open. Status, Harry says. Amplitude rising, Hermione answers. Period tightening to minutes. The lattice dampens but does not cancel. If we do nothing, it tears by midday. Not here, Flitwick says, small and firm. Not near a school. We move it by holding it and making it follow us. How, Kingsley asks. We feed it something it wants, Hermione says. Power. Not here. We offer it a heavier signal in a place on our terms. She points to the map. The old quarry outside the ring. Muggles stopped using it years ago. No houses. No hospital. No school. Harry nods once. We pull it, he says. Then we kill what comes through. Kingsley thumbs the mirror at his belt. Teams A and B, relocate to quarry north and south, he says. Cordon only. No casting inside the circle. If it tears, you run. Repeat it back. Voices answer, calm and clipped. He looks at Harry. I can hold the village, he says. If the lattice dips, I evacuate the last street and pull back to the inn. Do it, Harry says. Hermione sets the proto-world item on a flat rock. It hums hard enough to make her fingers buzz. She doesn't flinch. She writes 3 numbers on a card and slides it to Flitwick. He nods. Harry lifts a hand. He does not speak. The membrane thickens over the churchyard like a clear lid. The bubble above it wrinkles. It hates the new surface and presses harder. The relic's tone jumps. Hermione winces and holds it down with both palms. Now, she says through her teeth. The quarry. Gate. They step into open air and the smell of wet stone and old oil. The quarry is a bowl with ragged walls and a floor covered in shallow water and broken rock. The wind moves straight across it. The sky looks lower here. Kingsley's teams spread along the rim in twos, far back, under cover. Flitwick walks the outer ring and drops small stones into place with careful hands. Hermione sets the relic on a flat chunk of slate. It sings like a wire pulled tight. The song pulls at Harry's head in a steady way. He opens his hand and pushes a thin stream of power into the relic, tuned to the Flagley wave. The stream is clean. The seam smells it from the village and turns its head. The sky over the quarry thins. It is not an image. It is a measurement on Hermione's card that changes from 6 to 9 to 12 and then stays. Followed, she says. Lattice engaged. Flitwick says. If it tears here. Pomfrey arrives with 2 mediwitches and a trunk. She looks at the bowl like it is a ward with a bad case and puts her people under a ledge. She holds a mirror and says, hospitals are locked. No windows opened. No one comes to watch. Then she looks at Harry. Do not make me run across wet rock with a bag at my age. Noted, Harry says. Hermione meets his eyes and nods once. Her mouth is a hard line. She speaks without moving her lips much. You keep to code, she says. No city-scale spells near the perimeter. No destructive effects above the rim. No summons within range of a school. If you need the big one, you warn me. Yes, he says. His voice is calm. It doesn't shake because it doesn't know how to. The sky over the bowl pulls thin and stays thin. It stops being a seam and becomes a mouth. The lattice pushes back. The mouth folds the lattice like a hand kneading dough. The air in the bowl drops 5 degrees in a breath. Water ripples outward from a point that doesn't exist on the floor. Stones creak without moving. Kingsley's mirror clicks. Shackle to command, he says. Is here. Copy, Hermione answers. Stay out of the bowl. She takes the elder wand from the holster at Harry's wrist and hands it to him. He slides it into his palm. It warms a fraction. He hates the way it fits. He keeps it anyway. Ready, she says. Ready, he says. The mouth opens. It is not a door. It is a region of space that stops being the right size. The first thing through is sound. A low, steady note that makes teeth hurt. The second thing through looks like a coil until your eyes learn what it isn't. It touches the water and the water crawls away from it and has to crawl back. Harry feels the urge to test. He does not. He has the code. He has one goal. Hold it here. Kill it here. Don't rip the world near a child's bed. Shield lattice up, Flitwick says. His voice is steady. Sweat runs down his cheek into his beard. Harry draws a tight circle in the air with the Elder Wand and speaks a Tier 10 barrier, plain and old. It fits into the lattice and makes it stronger. The coil pushes against it. The barrier groans but holds. Hermione stands at his shoulder with the plan. She reads off steps like an instructor calling drills. Phase 1. Containment and measurement. Phase 2. Pressure test with non-summon high tier. Phase 3. Remove or seal. If remove fails, we seal. If seal fails, we escalate. He nods. He tests pressure with a single maximized magic missile. It hits. The coil ripples and its surface goes from smooth to ridged and back. It notices him. It moves fast for something that looks like it shouldn't move at all. It slaps the barrier and the barrier dents. The lattice squeals. Flitwick grunts like he took a small punch. Harry answers with a layered wall, plain again. He counts beats. The coil hits 4 times, pauses 2, hits again. It learns. It leans. The barrier holds, then thins. We have to hurt it, Hermione says. Plain attacks only. No summons. Keep it below the rim. Harry nods. He raises his hand and stacks 3 reality/arcs. Unboosted. Crack, crack, crack. Each cut tears a clean gap out of the coil's leading segment. The gaps do not bleed. The edges try to find each other and fail. The front part falls into the shallow water and twitches. The back part recoils and then splits. 2 fronts now. It learns again. Tests the lattice at 2 points. Flitwick takes 2 steps left and resets 2 stones with crisp flicks. The stones settle. The membrane hum goes down a notch. Kingsley's mirror clicks. Cordon holding, he says. Villagers clear. Muggle Road blocked with a flood sign. You have the bowl. Copy, Hermione says. The 2 fronts push. Harry layers walls across both lines. They press, withdraw, press. The bowl floor shakes. Water slops. The edge stones creak. Hermione's pencil moves across her card with fast, tight figures. We can kill halves with clean cuts, she says. If it splits again, we need a lock. Suggest bind it with physical anchor, not spell chain. The bowl walls. On it, Flitwick says. He skips his short legs across the rim with no drama and taps 3 anchor points with his small wand. The rock rings once, low. The lattice ties to it. It holds tighter. Front right, Harry says. He steps into the bowl, not far, just far enough to keep the wall true to the ground. The coil slams into his barrier and curls around it. He holds it and cuts again. Crack. The cut shears off a thick section. It flops and drags itself like a rope with its own hands and then stops. The back half recoils again. It learns slower when you make it smaller. Hermione watches the wave numbers drop. She lets out one tight breath. Phase 2 achieved, she says. Proceed to removal or seal. Harry looks up. The seam above the bowl flexes. A second pressure rises behind the first one. If he leaves it, it becomes a door that opens and stays. If he kills what is here and the mouth stays open, it pours more. Remove, he says. Now. He lifts the Elder Wand and sets the pattern for a dimensional excision. Not a city spell. Tight and clean. It locks to the mouth and the mouth twists to avoid it. He tightens. It slips. It knows he is there now. Pushes back hard and the whole bowl vibrates like a struck plate. The rim throws gravel. An oar swears and ducks. Seal, Hermione says. Seal, he repeats. He drops the excision and takes the staff grip. The Elder Wand sits like a short, ugly staff, and that thought is a distraction, so he kills it. He raises the wand. The lattice notes shift and prepare to take a weight they don't like. I shub Niggurath, he says. The quarry does not like the sound. The air goes tight around his ribs. The water stands up and then drops again. The spell cost comes due at once. It is not coins. It is work done by hands that never tire. He feels it ask a price. He pays it. Across Britain, in alleys and fields and tunnels, thousands of undead workers stop mid-task and go to stillness. They do not fall apart. They go quiet and fall like unstrung puppets and do not break. Carts stop rolling. Brooms stop in mid-sweep. A boy on a step in Diagon Alley watches a skeleton with a bucket freeze and lean against a wall as if it is resting for a minute. In the bowl, the price becomes power. A black cyclone twists out of nothing and stays between rim and floor like a column. It does not reach above the rim. The lattice holds it in place like a jar holds a wasp. The cyclone roars. Stones drag. Water goes up and then down in redrawn lines. From the cyclone step the dark young. 10 meters tall. Horned. Flexing. They are not a metaphor. They are numbers in a book AINZ once read and memorized. They plant their many legs in the shallow water with loud wet sounds. They grapple the coil halves. The coils try to slip out of grips that do not tire. They do not slip. The psychic backlash hits like a pressure wave. It is a tide of noise that tries to be grief. It comes from the places where the skeletons fell. It is thousands of broken tasks. Harry's hands shake for 1 second. His chest feels tight. The mental check moves and the shake stops. His breath evens. He catalogues the cost. Hermione sees it hit him. She steps close and sets a palm under his elbow for 1 count. She does not speak. She holds him there without drama until his hand steadying is a fact, not an effort. Then she steps back and keeps calling the plan. Phase 3, she says. While they hold, you cut. He nods. He raises his hand and stacks the spell 3 times. Maximize triplet magic. Reality slash. Crack, crack, crack. The first cut shears a coil half into 2 quarters. The second eats a quarter to nothing. The third takes a vertical slice out of the mouth itself. The rim of the mouth jumps like a ring of muscle cut. The bowl shakes again. 2 dark young lean and haul. The remaining coil half folds and flips. Harry cuts again. Crack. The last half goes still in pieces that stop being anything and fall into water as gray ash. The cyclone's roar drops. The dark young hold their stance and wait. The mouth above the bowl tries to stay open. It wobbles. Thinks. It tests the lattice at 3 points and finds rock behind it that will not move. Tries to pull power. The code stops Harry's hand from reaching for the thing that would be easier and messier. He picks the tight tool instead. He lifts the wand and draws a clean line around the edge of the mouth, slow, steady, constant, for 12 full seconds. His arm burns. His wrist throbs. The line holds. The edge sags. The mouth puckers and closes like a wound sutured without thread. Silence. No wind. No taste of wrong. The lattice hum settles to a low, even note. Rain comes back in a normal way. Water in the bowl stops crawling away from nothing and lies flat. Harry lowers his arm. The elder wand hangs heavy in his hand. He breathes and catalogs. Shoulders ache. Fingers numb. Heart rate high but controlled. Mana load above redline but not dangerous. Hermione's hand is on his sleeve again. Kingsley's mirror clicks. Report, he says. Sealed. Hermione answers. One entity destroyed. No civilian injuries. 2 dark young still present under control. 10-minute window before dismissal. Kingsley exhales into the mirror. Copy, he says. Cordon holds. Villagers will want to sing. I will let them hum. Harry releases the dark young. They stand 1 second longer than needed and then are not there. The cyclone unwinds itself and stops happening. The bowl smells like wet stone and a slight, burned thing that goes away with the next breath. Flitwick sits on a rock and takes off his hat. His hair is flattened to his head. He wipes his face with a square cloth and nods at the middle distance like he is grading a student and the student passed. Pomfrey steps out from under the ledge with her bag. Anyone we need to look at? She asks. She looks at Harry's forearm like she already knows the answer. He shakes his head. Not yet. Hermione sets the relic in its box. Her hands shake now that she can let them. We need to stand down this site and mark it for a week, she says. No walkers. No camping. No muggle kids with cans of paint. We publish a cover about loose rock. Kingsley's boots crunch on gravel as he comes down the slope with 2 oars and the goblin. He stops at the edge of the bowl and looks to make sure it is dead before he puts a foot further. Good, he says. He looks at Harry's face. Better than good. He glances at Hermione. Code held? Code held, Hermione says. He didn't cross a line. She looks at Harry. Thank you. He nods. Kingsley turns to his people. Pack it, he says. Clean. No trophies. No stones moved. Post the notice. The goblin clears his throat. Our audit Thursday will include a new column, he says. Summon cost disclosure. Itemized. You will show your books on labor deployed and labor lost. We already wrote the box, Hermione says. She opens her notebook to a page labeled, Summon Costs. Public. The goblin bares his teeth in approval. They climb back to the rim. Harry stands a second longer and looks at the water. He feels the pressure drop and settle. He hears the lattice settle to a house hum. He files the quarry under watched and turns away. Gate. Hogwarts again. Afternoon now. Students crowd under awnings to watch the rain. A skeleton worker sits on a bench with its broom across its legs. It will stand when replaced. His head tilts a fraction as if it hears something. It doesn't. It is waiting for a signal that will not come. Not today. It is part of the cost and the code says they will say it aloud. The command room smells like damp coats and tea. The war method code sits with a red pencil through 3 lines that need new numbers after what they learned. Hermione pulls a clean sheet and writes. Incident Report 8 Corey Flagley. She reads while she writes. Event. Dimensional tier attempt at Upper Flagley Churchyard. Lattice engaged. Action. Redirect to disused quarry. Containment. Non-summon high-tier pressure test. Escalate to seal with IA Shub-Niggurath. Final cut. Maximize triplet magic. Reality slash. Mouth sealed. Casualties human none. Undead 3,204 workers dismissed to fuel supertier. Property damage. Minimal at quarry. None at village. Compliance. Code observed. No exclusions breached. Addenda. Villager care. Muggle cover. Goblin audit. Lattice watch schedule. She sets the quill down and massages the base of her thumb. She looks at Harry. Sign it, she says. Then we publish it. He signs. The letters are clean. He does not add a flourish. Pomfrey puts down a small tray. Eat, she says. His body will listen to me if it will not listen to you. He eats. Bread. Soup. Water. His hands shake once when he grips the cup. He sets it down and the shake stops. He breathes. The mental check hums. The ache that tried to be grief earlier tries again. It does not make it through. Kingsley stands at the window with one hand on the frame. I hate the cost, he says. Plain. But I would rather pay bone than blood. He glances back. Your code made that choice before the fight. That matters. Hermione nods, eyes on the lines she is still adjusting. We add 2 new sections, she says. Summon cost accounting. Post-incident labor recovery. We set a rate. We publish what tasks pause and who takes them up while we rebuild stock. We can make more workers, Harry says. He hears how it sounds and corrects. We can replace the force without pushing house elves or people into unsafe work. Hermione's eyes flick. She nods. Good save. Flitwick clears his throat. We will also add school perimeter resonance checks to the weekly schedule, he says. I will teach 2 7th years to run the fork and the chart so we are not relying on me alone. McGonagall steps in with a stack of forms and wet hair that escaped its pins. Parents will write, she says. She drops the forms on the table. Prefects report 6 owls already. 2 praise. For angry. 1 very angry. She lifts her chin a fraction. We will answer with the code and the report. We will use short sentences. We will not use the word inevitable. Hermione crosses out inevitable on a draft without looking. Ginny appears in the doorway, out of breath, a scroll in hand. Professor, message from Mum, she says, eyes on Harry and then away. It's for him, and you, and everyone. She swallows. She says she is making soup and you should come eat it. Then she says, in all caps, Harry James Potter, if you do not come eat, I will come find you and I will bring a ladle. The room breathes. Even Kingsley smiles. Pomfrey's mouth twitches. Later, Hermione says, but yes, we'll go. Ginny nods and leaves. The door swings shut and clicks. Hermione looks at Harry and reads his face the way she reads runes. She sees the line there that got sharper in the bowl. She steps into his space and touches his wrist where the Elder Wand holster sits under his sleeve. You kept the code, she says. You kept me. You kept them. That is what you carry. He nods. He opens the public ledger and writes the part he hates and refuses to hide. Supertier used at 1142. Cost. 3,204 undead laborers dismissed. Tasks paused. Street sanitation in 19 towns. 3 sewer repairs. 2 harvest lines. 1 night watch on the South Canal. Mitigation. Auror auxiliaries and volunteers fill gaps within 24 hours. House elves not tasked with dangerous replacements. Skeleton stock replenishment schedule posted by morning. He signs that line too. Hermione reads it, checks the numbers and stamps it. Publish, she says. He sends it. They step out to the corridor. Students move to dinner with dull, happy noise. A first year bumps Hermione and mumbles sorry and looks at Harry like a statue that moved. Hermione smiles at the kid and keeps walking. Harry gives the child a brief nod. The child grins and runs to catch friends. They pass the window above the courtyard. A skeleton sits with its broom across its legs. A human custodian leans beside it and eats a sandwich. He offers half. The skeleton does not take it. The man laughs once to himself and leaves the half on the bench anyway and walks on. Hermione bumps Harry's shoulder with her own. Molly's, she says. We do not bring reports. We bring hands and we eat. Yes, he says. They flew to the burrow. The kitchen is heat and steam and loud voices. Arthur wipes his glasses and hugs them both in one long motion that makes Hermione swallow hard and look away. Molly cries for a short, fierce minute and then feeds them with the force of weather. Bill stands by the door and says nothing, eyes on Harry's face, jaw set. Fleur squeezes Hermione's hand and stays at her side when Hermione needs to stand and breathe. Molly does not ask about the quarry until after plates are clean and cups are full. Tell me what you did, she says to Harry. Calm. Not kind. True. He tells her. Plain. No romance words. No words that pick a fight on purpose. He says cost first. He says code. He says what he will not do again and what he will. He says he will sit with Ron tomorrow and read even if Ron cannot hear. He says he will not use mind work without the circle unless lives are in the balance. He says he will publish the worst parts, not just the pretty ones. Molly listens. She breathes through her nose and keeps her hands flat on the table, so she does not wring them. You will come once a week and eat here, she says when he finishes. Not because I am worried you will starve. Because you will not forget what it is to be looked at like a boy at a table and told to pass the bread. She looks at Hermione. And you will bring him, and you will both sleep. Hermione nods. Tears finally break and fall. She wipes them and laughs at herself without shame. We will, she says. Arthur clears his throat. Audit me next week, he says to Harry. He holds up a hand when Hermione blinks. The shed. The plugs. The silly things. I don't want to be a man who hides behind a shed while other people write rules. I want to be audited and pass. Harry nods. A small something in his chest tries to lift. The mental check smooths it. He keeps the sentence instead. I will come Tuesday, he says. They go back to Hogwarts late. The castle is quiet. The lake slaps stone. The lattice hum is steady. In the command room, Hermione lays out a new sheet. War Method Code version 0.2. Changes. Add sum and cost accounting. Public. Add post-incident labor recovery plan. Weekly school perimeter resonance checks with trained student deputies. New exclusion. No dimensional excision attempts within 1 mile of maternity wards and elder care homes. Publish village lattice watch schedule. She looks at Harry. He nods. He signs. She slides him a small, lined card. Write one sentence for you, she says. Not a rule. Not a plan. A sentence you will carry. He thinks. He writes. I do not need to feel to choose the human thing. She reads it. She puts it in her pocket like it is a key. We will check that line every time, she says. He nods. They put out the lamps. The relic in its box sings one soft, even note. The elder wand lies quiet in its drawer. The skeleton in the courtyard stands again at midnight when a fresh worker takes its place. The man who left a sandwich finds it gone in the morning and wonders if a fox ate it. He smiles and leaves another anyway. Above the lake, the seam does not open. It breathes once and then stops, like it is listening on the other side. The lattice holds. The code holds. The world holds. For now. Morning is cold and clean. The lattice hum has dropped to a house noise level. There when you listen, easy to ignore if you don't. Notices are up across Britain. Quarry closed for rockfall risk. Village roads reopened. School schedules unchanged. The War Method Code version 0.2 sits on 3 boards and the ministry atrium wall. People stop to read. Some nod. Some frown and keep moving. Life adjusts. Harry signs the overnight stack. Undead labor replenishment. On schedule. Gap coverage. Or auxiliaries and volunteers met targets in all 19 towns. 2 sewer jobs resume by dusk. The South Canal Watch is back at strength. He ticks boxes. He notes completion. He moves to the next line. Hermione sets a mug by his hand and a ledger in front of him. Audit at 9, she says. Goblins first. Kingsley at 10. McGonagall at noon. Then press. He looks up. She looks exactly like someone who slept and did not. Her hair is disciplined and wild at the same time. Ink on her thumb. The proto-world item rides quiet in its warded box on a side table like a teapot that refuses to whistle. Eat, she adds. He eats. Bread. Egg. Fruit. It is fuel. It is also Molly's bread. He notes both facts and keeps going. The goblins arrive on time with a thin folder and a thicker one. The elder auditor leans his walking stick against the table and slides over a single page. Summon cost disclosure, the goblin says. Itemized. Cross-checked with observed site data. Public-facing ledger acceptable with 2 edits. He taps a line. Replace dismissed workers with expended constructs in the footnote. Plain words. Not euphemism, but accurate. Agreed, Hermione says before Harry can speak. She writes the change and initial, then slides the pen to Harry. He signs. The goblin studies Harry for a beat. Your code creates work for us, he says. Good work. Hard work. He inclines his head the smallest fraction. Keep paying in paper before you pay in blood. We will, Harry says. They leave. Kingsley comes in with rain on his coat and a map case under his arm. Cordon rolled up at the quarry, he says. 2 teenagers tried to sneak in at dawn with paint cans. Or on the path told them to go home and do their homework. They did. He slides the map open. Lattice watch points for the week. Flitwick wants a student pair on each shift. Approved, Hermione says. She taps 3 names in McGonagall's handwriting. These 4 already trained on the forks and charts. She glances at Harry. You said students would be deputies, not spectators. We're making good on that. Kingsley watches Harry. Public mood, Kingsley says. Calm. Cautious. 3 letters call you savior. 10 call you tyrant. 2 use both words in 1 paragraph. Your report helped. The part where you wrote the bad parts, he shrugs, that landed. We will keep doing it, Harry says. Kingsley rubs at a knuckle. 1 more note, he says. Your rule about no bone nights on residential streets. A patrol in Leeds shifted into an alley when a storm rolled through. A grandmother on Rose Lane left hot tea under a back step after they went by. He lets the picture sit. That is not policy. It helps. Hermione's mouth softens. She writes nothing for once. She just keeps the sentence. McGonagall sweeps in at noon with a stack of parchment and a look that can part a sea of first years. Parents, she says. Briefing at 6 in the Great Hall and a live line to the atrium. We will use short sentences. We will not promise what we cannot deliver. We will repeat the evacuation tree twice. We will answer questions. We will not bite. Hermione crosses out 3 adverbs on the draft without breaking eye contact. We don't use the word inevitable, she says. McGonagall's mouth twitches, which for her is applause. And Potter, she adds, voice lower, you will sit where they can see you listen. Yes, he says. Press at 1 is a quiet room and 3 quills. 2 witch reporters. 1 wizard from the prophet. All with sideways eyes ready for a slip. Hermione does the frame. Harry answers without pretty words. Why a monarchy, the wizard asks. We tried councils, Harry says. They failed twice in my lifetime. Stability first. Change later when it can stand. We publish what we do. He taps the code. And we bind ourselves with rules. A witch with ink on her cheek tilts her head. And the price, she says. Yesterday's. Today's. How do people live with bone on the streets and a ledger that counts them? We publish the count, Harry says. We don't hide it. We eat at tables with people who do not like it and we take the questions. We keep hospitals and schools outside the blast radius of our decisions. And we don't pretend this feels good. He feels nothing rise at the edges of the sentence. The mental check hums like it always does. He holds the sentence anyway. After, Hermione and Harry stand at the window while runners cross the courtyard with bundles under coats. The rain is thin. Someone laughs in the distance. A skeleton worker sweeps water away from a step and pauses when a student runs past. Then resumes. Hermione rests her shoulder against his. Parents' meeting, she says. Then dinner at the Burrow. Molly will be furious if we miss it. He nods. We stop at St. Mungo's first, he says. Ron. She swallows and nods. They flew to the hospital. The corridor outside Ron's room is quiet. A ward hums under skin like a small current. The door clicks. The room smells like clean sheets and mint tea. Sunlight sits on the floor like a square rug. Ron lies easy, face soft, breathing slow. A chess set sits open on a side table, pieces in place for a game that will not finish. A Quidditch program peeks from a book. The illusion is gentle. It makes a space for a friend to sit and be a friend. Harry pulls a chair and sets it close. He sets down a box. Brought yours, he says. Mrs. Figg's set. Night still chipped. Hermione stands at the window first, then sits with her back to the wall, knees up, eyes on Harry's hands. Harry opens the box and sets the pieces. He moves a pawn. Do you remember the time I spilled pumpkin juice on your queen, he says. You made a noise like a kettle. He pauses. Your mum laughed so hard she had to sit down. He moves another piece. Hermione's throat works. A tear rolls and she lets it. He plays both sides. He names the moves out loud. He talks about the quarry, the code, the tea under the step. He trips on nothing. He refuses to make it a performance. He keeps his voice low and plain. After 40 minutes he closes the box, cleans the board, and sets the set where Ron can see it when he opens his eyes in a world that will never make him hurt. Hermione stands and comes to his shoulder. He would hate that we came, she says, voice thick, and then hate that we didn't. She draws breath. We keep coming. We keep coming, Harry says. They leave. The air outside the ward tastes like steel and lemon. Hermione scrubs at her cheeks and straightens her collar. Great hall at 6. Parents. Then Molly. The hall is full. Owls on rafters like punctuation marks. Parents sit with hands folded or clenched. Some stand. Some whisper. McGonagall's voice cuts through like a clean blade. We are safe now, she says. We intend to keep it that way. She does not raise her voice. The murmur falls. Hermione walks them through the code. Evacuation trees by street and village. What to pack in a single bag. The lattice watch schedule. How to talk to Muggle neighbors without saying too much and without lying. She points at the words on the board and leaves them there. Harry stands where she put him and listens. He watches faces. He answers 4 questions. Will you fight in our street? A woman asks. No, he says. Not unless there is no other choice. The code is written to make sure we never reach that choice. A man with a square jaw leans forward. Who watches you? He asks. You, Harry says. The circle. The code. The goblins. Kingsley's department. Hermione. He looks at her. She nods. We put our rules in public so you can hold them up when we forget. A small boy in a neat jumper stands on a bench and waves until someone notices him. Are the skeletons nice? The boy asks. The hall breathes. His mother goes scarlet and tugs him down. They do what they are told, Harry says. That is the point. He pauses. A man in Leeds left one a sandwich. The skeleton didn't eat it. But someone did. The boy grins. The hall laughs without permission and then stops like it worried it was wrong to do it. McGonagall lets them have it and moves on. After, they flew to the burrow. The kitchen is heat and movement. Arthur takes Harry's coat like Harry isn't a king. Molly kisses Hermione's forehead and swats Harry's hand when he tries to help with the pot. Sit, she says. Eat. Speak when you want. Don't if you don't. She looks like she cried and then set crying aside to stir and slice and order a room. Bill leans in the doorframe and nods at Harry. You did it clean, Bill says. He doesn't smile. His eyes say he is still measuring a dozen things. Arthur lifts a folder with penciled lines and tiny notes. Audit me, he says, tone light and serious both. The shed, the plugs, the silly things. If I pass, I'll frame it. Hermione laughs into her sleeve. Harry nods. Tuesday, he says. Molly places a mountain of potatoes in front of him. The cost, she says without drama. Say it. He does. Bone, not blood. 3,204. Work paused. Work resumed. He says he will publish the worst part every time. Molly nods once. She sets a plate down like a gavel. And you will come here on Sundays and remember you are a person who eats, she says. Hermione makes sure he does. And you too. We will, Hermione says. Her voice is rough and glad. Later, when the house is noisy in the slow way of a family doing dishes, Hermione and Harry stand by the back door and watch rain bead on a garden gnome's nose. You wrote yourself a card, she says. Show me. He pulls it from his pocket. The words are small and square on the lined paper. I do not need to feel to choose the human thing. She reads it, then puts it back in his pocket and pats it twice. Good, she says. They go back to Hogwarts. Night is honest. The lake slaps the stones. The lattice hum sits low. In the command room, Flitwick pins the new watch rota with a brass tack, pats it once, and goes to sleep for the first time in 2 days. Pomfrey leaves a list on the table titled Aftercare. Staff, students, Aurors. With simple orders. Sleep, water, warm food, no bravado, ask for help. Hermione spreads a clean sheet. War Method Code version 0.3 changes, she says. Read back. He reads while she writes. Add public answer hour each market day in 3 hubs. Recruit student deputies to lattice watch in pairs. Supervised. Prohibit any excision within 1 mile of maternity and elder care. Already added. Add Ron Weasley visitation to Sovereign weekly schedule. Public. Hermione glances at him. He meets her eyes. He nods. We publish that, she says. People need to see you sit in a chair and play chess with a friend. Even if he can't answer. Yes, he says. She copies the line and underlines it. Kingsley knocks once and steps in, hair damp, eyes steady. Scotland clear, he says, which for him is a poem. No seam pulses. One nasty smuggling ring found using the code patrol map like fools. He places a small wrapped parcel on the table. Molly sent cake. He hesitates. He clears his throat. Good work yesterday. Not the destruction. The rules. The rules made it possible to be proud without lying to myself. Thank you, Hermione says. Harry inclines his head. After Kingsley leaves, Hermione cuts 3 slices and leaves the rest wrapped. They eat in comfortable silence. The cake tastes like cinnamon and spice and a kitchen that forgives you for not talking. Near midnight, they walk the corridors once. The castle breathes. Students whisper. A prefect's laugh bounces off stone and dies. In the courtyard, a human custodian sweeps while a skeleton holds a lantern for him. They nod to Harry without stopping. They end up in the small side room off the library. 2 chairs. 1 low lamp. A window with rain trying to write its language on the glass. Hermione sits on the edge of his chair and puts a hand to his jaw. He does not move away. She kisses him, soft and sure. Warmth rises. The mental check does its quiet work. The ache slips under and flattens. She rests her forehead to his. It is enough, she says. Not what I dreamed when I was 12. Better than the world as it was. She smiles, small and stubborn. And I get to correct your commas. He huffs a breath that is almost a laugh. Thank you, he says. They sleep for 2 hours on opposite chairs with a blanket over their knees and wake at the same moment when the relic hum lifts half a note. Then settles. Day has not started yet. It is content to wait. Dawn comes clean. The press prints the report and the code. The Goblin Ledger adds a new column titled Public Cost. The Prophet runs a front-page editorial that calls Harry a tyrant and a savior in alternating lines and concludes, grudgingly, that publishing the terrible parts is a decent start. In a village high street, a boy leaves half a sandwich on a bench beside a skeleton and walks away whistling. A fox eats it. The boy decides the skeleton is shy and leaves another the next day. In the throne of King's Chamber, just a good room with tall windows and a sturdy chair that happens to be the place people bring their problems, Harry sits and listens. Farmers ask for tools. He approves a forge grant with Hermione's numbers and Flitwick's notes. A Muggle-born parent asks for ward stones for Elaine. Approved. Kingsley requests 2 more trainee groups for code patrols. Approved. The Circle brings a proposed amendment that tightens the no-summon zone around schools by another half-mile. He signs. Hermione stands at his elbow, a pen behind one ear, a pencil in her hand, eyes on the next page. She catches mistakes before they happen. She says no when no is right. She says yes when yes will hold. At noon, he steps down and walks to the window. Wind moves the lake. Clouds stack in clean layers. The seam on the far horizon does not breathe. The lattice hum is ordinary. He thinks of the boy in the hospital bed who will never hate him to his face again. He thinks of a woman in Leeds and a cup of tea under a step. He thinks of Molly's kitchen and Arthur's pencil audit lines and the goblin's thin smile and Flitwick's hat and Pomfrey's list. He thinks of Kingsley's good work said like a weight put down. He thinks of Hermione, who is not smiling right now because she is correcting a column header and that is important. He could try to force the feeling and let the check snap it flat. He does not. He reads the card in his pocket instead. I do not need to feel to choose the human thing. He breathes. He chooses. At dusk, he goes to St. Mungo's and plays a game he will not finish. He reads 2 pages from a book of jokes that are not very funny. He tells a story about a sandwich that went missing and a fox that likely ate it. He says he will come back Tuesday and he does not lie. At night, he sits again in the throne room with the last stack. The lamp throws a plain circle of light. Papers in. Papers out. Numbers that mean food and roofs and clean water and a ward that will hold when a seam decides to test the fence again. The code pinned on the wall like a promise and a threat they made to themselves. Hermione comes in with 2 mugs and a tired face. She hands him one and leans a hip against the table. We built something ugly and good, she says. Yes, he says. She bumps his shoulder with hers. You don't have to enjoy it, she says. You just have to keep it true. He nods. He will. They step to the window. The courtyard holds a skeleton with a broom and a human with a sandwich. The wind makes the lanterns bow once and steady. The lake holds the sky like a mirror with scratches. He speaks once, to the glass, to the night, to no one in particular. It is enough, he says. The words do not lift him. They do not need to. They sit like a stone under a beam in a house that does not fall. Outside, Britain runs on schedules pinned to boards and a hum that most people do not hear anymore. The sorcerer kingdom functions. The schools teach. The hospitals rest. The patrols walk. The audits audit. The code is amended in the morning, and again the next week, and again when it must be. When seams test the fence holds. When it does not, they fix it and they publish the bad parts first. Harry Potter sits on the throne of kings with a pen in his hand and an empty space where triumph used to live. He keeps the empty space clean. He fills the ledger squares. He shows up for dinner. He reads to Ron. He lets Molly scold him about sleep. He lets Arthur brag about passing an audit. He hands Flitwick chalk and Pomfrey a list and Kingsley a map. He lets Hermione correct his commas and his laws, and he listens when she tells him to stand down. He has saved the world from a man who loved fear and a thing that loved hunger. He has replaced chaos with order that does not ask permission. He is the singular protector. He is the reason schools can post timetables without lying. He is also the reason no one votes on the timetable. He is not the boy who lived. He is the sovereign who stays. The last owl passes the window. The last lamp goes out. The lattice hum runs on. He reads the card in his pocket one more time and puts it back. He is the darkness that replaced the darkness. And the world, busy and grateful and wary, does not notice the difference. It just notices that the lights stay on.